to try to really just keep your health high, make sure you're getting points each and every game. You're avoiding going bot 4 at all costs.
Yeah, and I think even when like our normal tournaments that have like those 6 games, when you have the format like this, top 4s make a massive difference, right? A single 8th tier is just so much variance here. So trying to at least squeeze out those top 4s. I love the tempo play here. And we can just see this capped out board, Snooty taking the win.
And it's so interesting, right? Because to win a tournament, you kind of have to be able to do both. You have to be able to get those top 4s and get to the later stages. But then to actually win the whole thing, you have to be able to play those more risky styles and play those cap boards. And that's where I think being flexible is so important. You have to be a complete player to win an incredibly difficult event like this. You have to beat out 511 other players if you are going to be the TFT Vegas Open champion, and that requires you to be able to do it all.
And props to DK as well. First game, main broadcast, Vegas Open, picks Recon Bob in 20 of his 3 games and manages to squeeze in that top 4 for round 2. So a scary player to face in that second round.
Yeah, get a look at these boards here. Disho playing Edgelord. We've seen Edgelord do, you know, kind of come back. A lot of people are expecting more Yone, so, but otherwise, the fact that we're able to play around that Kane, play around that Viego, so, yeah.
We do have a winner's interview coming up in just a bit, it looks like, on the main stage. So don't go anywhere just yet. Have to finish analyzing these highlights. And what was, I think, a really, really cool first main stage lobby with, again, big names and the results you expected as well.
Yep,
we're going to go to the interview now with Makes.
And we're here at the main stage with the winner of the main stage game number 1, Dish Soap. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. Feels good not to get lobby 1. It's
Now, you were recently signed by Dish Soap, of course. Tell us a little bit about that journey and being part of that organization.
DSG is great. Really appreciate the opportunity to come out here and play for them.
البكسلة من عندهم مو من
try to
عندي.
win for toast, I guess.
Yeah, let's go. My bad, I said Dish Soap. Of course, I mean. Disguised toast. But you have one more round today. 3 more games to go through.
فرصة طويل العمر. تأكد بس الوضع كيف.
Of course, you did phenomenal in those 3 here. Are you
جوجل ابديت.
going to keep the same approach, or will you go around and see what maybe other people are up to?
I'm gonna keep the same approach.
في شيء اسمه جوجل ابديت
My whole
شغال.
plan, like this round, was to just play my game and hope other people messed up. Like playing pretty passively, playing around 4 costs. If you just make a stable board on level 8, it's just kind of easy to top 4 in these beginning stages. So we'll probably do that for the next lobby. I don't know about tomorrow though.
All right, we know you're a fan of those 4 costs, so they're a little bit better now. I'm happy for that for you as well. Anything else you want to say to the people here, or maybe anyone that's watching at home?
No, I mean, nothing really comes to mind.
All right, I'll just say thank you, okay? Back to you guys over there.
هذا اللاعب
Great to hear from
رانك أول على
on the
أمريكا.
main stage. I think that's where he belongs, as someone that came in as a big favorite from ladder. We're going to break, and we'll be back with the heat number 2 as well, and all the results from this first heat.
عاملين كرسي خاص للبطولة. نص دقيقة ليبلش لوبي الجديد، الهيت الجديد اسمه هيت 2. هات لنشوف. وين شباب السهيرة؟ اخ 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 يا بس الفكرة اي لوبي هيختاروا لنا نشوف؟ اللوبي اللي فوق اللي هو ابطال اكتر، ولا اللوبي اللي تحت اللي هو اذا خسر بيطلع؟
We were about to get back into the action, but we were able to take a look at some of our players here on the floor. So let's check in and see what they had to say.
Whoa.
Yay!
How's it going on your end?
It's good.
Nice work. Thank
ليك
you.
المنظر هيك قديش في اجهزه.
Thank you.
Thank you.
هي
Well, I can tell you
اللوبي
that you had some
الاساسي
really nice
بيعدوها.
things to say there. That was Wolf Glick, who was one of the competitors that was able to make it forward to the top 256, coming through from Heat 1. We are back, everybody, with day number 1 of our coverage of the TFT Vegas Open, and I'm so excited to be back here on the desk with all of you. And for the first time, we've got Casanova here. We've also got Bryce here, coming through from K3 Soju's co-stream.
Yeah, Soju barely made it. It was down to the wire. We engaged in some cookery that looked more like milk at the summit than, you know, Michelin star chefing. But he did get through, and it's just a survive and advance situation. So we're chilling.
With all the really great food in Vegas, I think he maybe shouldn't be cooking as much. Instead, go out and pick one of the great options that he has available to him. But I don't know, as I was walking around, the energy in the room has been so amazing. And I saw so many players, like, they get the win to get into the next round and just big pop-offs. The big one I saw was Socks. He needed a first place. He couldn't get anything else. And he made it happen at the very end to get his spot in the next round.
That's actually crazy. It was interesting because the lobby that we were casting here on the main stage,
512 لاعب بده يصيروا 256.
we were seeing a lot of favorites finishing 7th in their first game, finishing 8th in their first game. And you start to realize, hey, it's not all going to go according to plan.
No, I mean, especially as the tournament goes on, we're just going to see some of the tournament favorites going to fall. We haven't seen any major favorites fall yet, to my knowledge. I did see that Bobe was actually on the cusp, but I didn't see what happened at the end of that lobby. So maybe that's our first big retirement.
Rain Implosion as well.
Oh, is Rain out?
After 2 games was in 8th in the lobby. So, So I think it would be very unlikely. I didn't see the scores after the 3rd game, but very unlikely I think that they
I'd walked past and her match history was up, and I saw 2 7ths. I don't know if it was, I think it was her match history that was up, so that checks out with what I saw as I was walking around. And with 2 7ths, I actually don't know if you can even claw back into that top 4.
I think you would have to, everything would kind of have to go exactly how you would want it, but you know, it's tough, right? The reality is, especially if you're playing some of these more risky lines and stuff, things can go really, really crazy. We saw some highlights from DQA where he was about to go like the biggest 7th, biggest 8th, and he had last stand. Last stand came back from 1 HP. Able to win out the whole lobby and get a first, right?
Let's go, Daniel. Yeah, we actually saw a couple other players end up in spots similar. I actually saw ISG Michael.
هون اللي ورا بيعدوا اللوبيات الثانية. إنه في 512 كمبيوتر هون.
Barely clawed into top 4 because in his lobby that was the Stellarman. He 9 true damage lobby.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna beat that.
You're not gonna beat that. So you're playing for second.
You're stuck on that last stand, just like, when am I dying? That is the problem at that point.
It's been so exciting walking around on the floor too, because as you talk about some of the big player pop-offs that we've been seeing, there's also a bunch of fans that are gathering behind their favorite streamers, their favorite players, and just being able to cheer them on for when they have those high highs or they do have those low lows. So that's been really exciting to check in on too.
Absolutely. I'm kind of curious what you all have been seeing in some of your games, because we had been seeing, you know, much more like forecast play. It felt like in the lobbies that we were watching, not as many people going for fast 9. It was much more around stabilizing on 8 before going to 9, and maybe that's the capped out board that wins. But it's actually a pretty far cry from what I felt like I was seeing last patch.
So the patch definitely shifted. I also think it's worth noting that there's going to be lobby-dependent metas as well, because part of this is if you're in a lobby where there's quite a bit of skill disparity, it becomes easier to then be a fast 9-oriented player to get to greed out and cap out your board for that win. It becomes much more challenging if the lobby is more evenly distributed in terms of power level of players.
I definitely want to talk about the meta a little bit more, but we did get a chance to check in with some of our players that are on the floor, so let's go ahead and see what they have to say. I am here with one of my dear friends and TFT competitors. It is Wolf Glick. You are just playing some very high-intensity TFT games. I know you've been competing, but what does it feel like to be here to compete at TFT?
I mean, it's a really cool experience. Just the whole atmosphere and like the crowd and everything, it makes it feel so much more intense than playing at home, which is the only place I've ever played TFT before. So yeah, you know, I didn't really have many expectations going in, so I thought, oh, I probably won't be nervous, but I sat down and, you know, with the atmosphere and everything, I was like, oh, I'm starting to shake a little bit. So it's really intense, but in a good way. It's really fun.
I know the live environment has been so fun to play in, and you're no stranger to that, especially competing in Pokemon, but what does it feel knowing that you made top 256?
I'm really surprised, but I'm also really happy. I definitely didn't come in thinking that I would be doing very well, especially when I saw like the people in my lobby. So, yeah, the last game was like a little bit tricky. I went 6th. You know, I was hoping to keep up my other good performances, but making to the next round I think is better than I could have hoped for, and I'm really glad to have some more games to play.
I think this is what we would call the world champ difference.
Let's hope that it holds up. Let's hope I haven't burned through all of it in 3 rounds already.
Well, best of luck, Wolf, and congratulations.
What's going on? I'm here with Setsuko, who took me and so many people here in the crowd on a roller coaster of emotions. You were on the brink of elimination going to that 3rd game, and it looked actually a little scary. You were 23 HP, and you kind of had this huge comeback. Can you talk a little bit about how the game went?
وين الشعب؟
I think on 4-1, I was like actually going 8th a lot of the time.
بين الناس.
I don't know, like I stabilized around Kaylin too. Like I think Kaylin's like really underrated right now. Like she's actually like really strong if you like make a good front line with her. And I think Crash Test Dummies also bailed me out a bit because it made my first augment, stationary augment, also jump forwards. So it allowed me to use my Zeeks like actually in the back and not grief my positioning. But yeah, like a lot of things went right on stage 4 for me to streak, and then I just snowballed off that. Yeah.
Obviously, you're playing on land for the first time that we've ever seen you compete in TFT. Can you talk a little bit about what it feels like to actually be here and competing alongside your competitors?
I mean, it feels like kind of the same as like online. I mean, like I just hear during the game like people behind me just like can't focus. But like other than that, I mean, it's like kind of the same. I just like during the game I'm just like locked in. I can't really.
ما
I'm not
عندهم
really
صوت
nervous
عم
or
يقطع
anything. Like
طبعا.
it's like kind of the same. I mean, but it feels nice just seeing everyone though. It's like yeah, pretty nice.
It's obviously a tournament of high variance, right? That's the nature of TFT, low sample size. But if you honestly give me a number, what are your chances of making it to the top 8 in this tournament?
I mean, as of now, probably like I don't know, like 10% or like 15% the top 8. I mean, I think I like kind of like during those 3 games I kind of like learned the patch a little bit. Like it sounds weird, but like I'm like learning as I play because I haven't really had many games on the patch. So now that I survived like the first 3 games, I feel like it only gets better from here. Like it's like easier and easier, yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Setsuko. We have so many people who are really rooting for you. You are obviously one of North America's best talents, so good luck to you on the rest of the tournament. That's going to do it for us. Back to you.
We're at the TFT Las Vegas Open this morning. We're here with Ariana, or in this case, Nico, for today. How are you enjoying the event? Have you seen the venue? How are you enjoying it all?
I've seen everything, and everything looks so cool. I feel the energy and excitement from the crowd, and I'm so excited to see all of our champions go and challenge each other today. See who win the prize. Woo.
تعبان.
So you did not come today as yourself. You came as Nico. Why this champion specifically?
So I'm a cosplayer, and just like Nico, she's a shapeshifter. I thought it was perfect. And just like Nico, I'm also a KDA super fan, and Ari is my bias.
We love the cosplay. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy today.
Thank you.
That is so relatable because Ari is also my bias. So it's so great though to see all of these cosplayers, all of these incredible players come together in one place. And I want to go back and revisit that conversation because I think Setsuko really touched on this, and that's where the meta is right now. We were kind of teasing it a little bit in terms of how this patch has really navigated through this tournament, but it does seem like Forecast right now doing pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this is something you kind of touched on. It depends on your lobby, like how you're going to have to actually play it out. And I think we're going to see that evolving throughout the weekend as well. Something that I saw a lot from some of these top players in the first rounds was that they're just trying to keep healthy. They're trying to play powerful boards. They're going to be leveling aggressively. And they're just basically trying to make sure I'm going to get top 4s, right? Because they feel that they can kind of outplay their competition in the later stages where it gets really complex around playing around all these different headliners, all these different decision trees. And I think that's a really smart way to play it because all you have to do is guarantee yourself top 4 to move on to the next stage. But once you start getting in harder and harder and harder lobbies, you can't just play as conservative.
And as you get into the later rounds, we're going to start rewarding top 2 out of 8 instead of top 4 out of 8. So you can play a really conservative game plan on day 1, but day 2, you really need to insert more risk. Otherwise, you can find yourself in good placements, but not actually in the top 2 and going home.
Yeah, it's a really great point. And one of the big things is every time we get to tournament play, the meta does start to skew towards tempo because people are, they want to play for that top 4. They don't want to play for the big cap out necessarily. And I think with the nerves of being in this environment, a lot of players will start to panic roll quicker, and they're going to have to adapt when we get to that top 2. And the players who are still able to play fast 9 in these lobbies are going to have a much better time.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be so interesting, right? Because you have to be such a complete player, I feel like, to be able to win in a field of 512 players, it's kind of ridiculous. Like, you can't just be someone who can play aggressive and farm top 4s that might get you to day 2, but then you have to get top 2 to actually get into the final lobby. And then the final lobby, you have to be getting firsts, right? Like, that's the only way you can become the TVO champion is by getting the check and then getting a first place. You have to know how to play all these different lines, more conservative lines to advance yourself through the tournament, but then these really high cap boards to actually take it all home.
Yeah, and we don't know yet exactly how the meta is going to shake out, right? Setsuko was mentioning he thinks Caitlyn is underrated. If you pull 15 of the top players in this field, you're going to get ranging opinions from she's underrated to she's the best 4-cost backline carry to she's garbage and I'm never putting on my board. That stuff's going to shake out a little bit over the course of the weekend, but you're also going to have people, like you said, stylistic flexibility is going to become king. You need to be able to play around some of these 3-cost reroll outs because you're going to get in spots for them. You're going to need to play around 4 costs, especially when you're low rolling. You need to stabilize and get the best pace that you can. And then when you're in the spot to go level 9, you have to be able to build winning boards and get those first where they come.
Yeah, I absolutely love it because earlier I was just hanging out at the co-stream with you, Dan, and Soju, and you guys were talking meta, and I was sitting there like, I pulled a bunch of players. This is not what I heard from everyone else. This is very different from what I was hearing from a lot of. As things come up and as we see some of these players that kind of sent me things, I can reveal a little bit more of that because I don't want to like leak everybody's tech as we go through. But it's just really unique, as you pointed out, that so many players have so many different reads. The big one was people talk about Kane and how different that is from other people's 5-cost meta read. And we saw Dish Soap pull off some really great games with Kane.
Yeah, actually, a lot of people in these lobbies were playing Kane. It was more of a focus, you know, at level 9 around Kane and Kiana than it was around Ziggs, as we were seeing, you know, last patch, get 9, get Ziggs, try to play around Jazz. That's kind of what the name of the game was. But people are capping in a lot of different ways. And the other thing I would say is that I think people kind of oversimplify the discussions around meta by talking about, okay, people have different reads, but then you're going to find the right read and everyone should play that. And I don't actually think that's correct. I think that you can have all these people with different reads that can all be, you know, equally correct because there's so much variance in how you have to play the game based on the things that you can't control in the game, right? I can't control what augments I'm given. I can't control what portal it's going to be. I can't control the tempo of the lobby. And so the correct decision changes completely based on all of these other things. And that's where I think you really see these special players be able to shine because they can adapt to all these different circumstances.
And you especially see it because we actually have a pretty balanced patch when it comes to just the stats. I know a lot of the players don't get a look at the stats right now, but when we look at tactics tools, we see things like most augments in Masters Plus. You know, there's nothing better than a 4.0 in Masters Plus right now. So the augment gaps of some of these is not as massive, and it's allowing a lot of other strategies to shine that utilize these augments even better.
I think that's why we always see the analysis of where are these study groups going, what have they decided is going to be the best in the meta right now. But also, I think that does leave some room for some of those players that are sneaking into this tournament that might be a little bit more unknown when it comes down to how they're going to perform at this tournament. But we are going to be taking a short break because we have some of those players that are going to be coming up shortly on our stage, but we got to make sure that they are ready to go. So don't go anywhere, everyone. This is day number 1 of the TFT Vegas Open.
حلوين هدول النخلات الصغيرة على الكرسي. ما بعرف إذا هي نخلة هي ولا شو. أنا بس جعبالي أعرف شغلة واحدة. مين اللي حيلعب بالمباراة الجاية؟ أي لوبي، أي ناس، أي 8. أهلا يا دودي. نخلة. مين هن الاثنين اللي حيلعبوا هلا او مين 8 مو الاثنين؟ يعني في خيارين، يا حيحطوا لنا اقوى 8 لاعبين بس هن متأهلين لبكره، يا بدهم يحطوا لنا اضعف لاعبين يلي هن اذا خسروا بيطلعوا اذا بيربحوا بيتأهلوا. بس يفرجونا. بطولة العالم بتي اف تي تبع هذا السيزن. بكل سيزن بيكون في بطولة. هذا السيزن قرروا يعملوها مبكرة مشان ينحسب 2023 مو 2024. مع العلم انه بطولة تي اف تي تبع كأس العالم النظامي خلص من شي 3 أسابيع. ما كنت ادري انه عندهم بطوله بطوله كاس العالم. انا نزلتها عندي بالقناه النهائيه، يعني المباراه النهائيه موجوده تبع كاس العالم النظامي، بس كانت باخر اسبوع من السيزن الماضي، يعني مو هذا السيزن، لعبوا كاس العالم بالسيزن الماضي. هلا كاس العالم 2024 كمان ما حيكون بهذا السيزن، حيكون بالسيزن اللي بعده. فلهيك قرروا يعملوا كأس خاص لهذا السيزن يسموه فيجاس اوبن، بيجيبوا 512 لاعب ليلعبوا فيه. في 512 جهاز عندهم يعني. بس نظام البطولة يا جماعة هي نظام تشيك ميت تبع الشطرنج. شو نظام التشيك ميت؟ نظام التشيك ميت هو بالمباراة باليوم الأخير آخر 8 بيوصلوا بيلعبوا كل واحد ليوصل ل20 نقطة. المركز الأول 8، الثاني 7، الثالث 6، الثامن نقطة. لما واحد يوصل لل20 نقطة اعتبارا من الجيم اللي بعده بيقدر يعمل تشيك ميت. شو يعني؟ يعني إذا بيطلع مركز أول بيربح البطولة، إذا ما بيطلع أول بيكملوا. ففي احتمال يكون البطولة مثلا 3 جيم، وفي احتمال تكون 30 جيم unlimited. يعني ممكن دودي ربحت كل المباريات صار مع 20 نقطة، هلأ صار لازم تطلع أولى ما تعلق معه، تطلع تانية 10 مباريات ما بتربح، بضلها تلعب. بس بهالوقت بيكون في عالم صار عندهم تشيك ميت تانية لغاية ما تخلص. فهي معقدة شوي بس بتصير.
Maybe like back then there was like 10 players that are known. Now there's like 50 to 100 players that are like all like really good. So it's just a sign that the game is growing. So
هاي طاولة الفي اي بي، خلينا نقول هاي اللي حيصوروا لنا اياها. هاي الثمانية الفي اي بي من 512.
See, I don't like the framing because I think NA is the strongest region, but not because I'm biased. It's because I have eyes. Exactly. So look, the scoreboard speaks for itself. I think the two best regions in the world are pretty clearly China and NA, and I think who's stronger depends a lot on meta state. Actually, I think NA is stronger in certain environments and CN's better in others, and just who happens to shake out that day. If EU wants to catch up, they got a lot of work to do, but maybe they start with a Vegas title. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean the stats are there for us, right? The AVP at Worlds.
Numbers don't lie.
They don't lie. No. I'll give it to Wet Jungler. He did grab second place. Nobody was beating title. Title was way too good.
Hey, I was just happy to have EU get someone back in the top 8 again.
Hey, that was nice. That's pretty nice. That's pretty nice. Give him some representation, But Wei Jin still grabbing that third, like NA still having a really good spot. And as we went down that list, right, World Championship looked really good for NA.
I mean, I'm just sitting back and enjoying the fact that it's even an argument that NA can be the best region.
That's how I feel too.
Suffered for so
I've been around
long.
esports for I've been working esports for a little bit over a decade, and being in the game where NA is the best, or at least arguably the best, man, that feels good.
يا ريت بس يبلشوا اليوم.
I watch a lot of League of Legends.
هدول شو الألعاب المحطوطة اللي بالنص؟
Robin not even knowing that NA is defending champions in Valorant.
هدول موجودين باللعبة؟
It's our title. We gotta take it where we can get it, man.
He's too old to know what Valorant is.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good
It's more of a
point.
zoomer game, yeah.
حلوين.
Oh my goodness. But you know what? He does bring up like
Think
so
Hawaii.
many good points, like especially at the beginning of the day, to talk about the fact that we're in a live environment right now. I mean, Bryce, what has it been for you just being on the K3 Soju stream? Like, how have you seen kind of the fans interacting with him?
It's crazy. I mean, you got all the co-stream setups right along the wall, and you have probably 100 people that are just hanging out along the rope watching, and all the lobbies are potted with each other. So it's just such a cool environment. It feels like somewhere like almost like an open bracket COD event or a fighting game community event. Just feels so interconnected with the fans really being part of the magic, and it just, I don't know, it feels very TFT to me. It's very emblematic of our community.
I mean, it's super fun, right? These kind of events really kind of remind me of a lot of like the MLGs that I used to do in the best ways, right?
Yes.
I had
كل
such an experience
أجهزة.
going up through the MLGs and IEMs and all these
كل
events where it is,
8
like, so
مربع.
interconnected.
ليك
Pros
قديش
are
في
walking around,
مربعات؟
fans are
يا
walking around, you're getting to chat deep
ساتر.
with a lot of these people. That's so fun. There's cool community
Wow.
events that are going on. They had a pre-party last night where you were actually casting a lot of show matches with Flodan that were really cool with all kinds of
لاعبات
people in
كمان.
there. Mortog was in there. We had all kinds of different people from the scene playing.
Like, we've joked about it, but it really does feel like TFT-Con. Like, it feels like all the personalities from TFT have come out of the woodwork. You know, we've got all these, like, really cool things in the hall of the different, like, music from the set being all mixed together. We've got the prize walls. We've got cosplayers. It does feel like a convention alongside the tournament. That's just been such an immaculate vibe.
I mean, it's really fun for me too, even, you know, having spent less time in the TFT scene, actually just seeing all these people I recognize from other scenes, right? Because I used to get StarCraft, there's StarCraft pros here, you know, there's like former WoW people that I used to play with.
Never interviewing Wolfie, this is a Pokemon crossover when it comes to
exactly.
TFT.
There's all kinds of people from the League scene as well.
هذا بطل ليج اوف ليجند
Man the myth.
اسمه سنفيكيوس هيك شيء
سنفيكيوس is playing as well. So
كان بفريق
فاناتيك. That's one of the really cool things about TFT is that it feels like
فريق
kind
اسمه
of like a melting pot of all these other games and all these different things because there's like such a crossover of interests. People who come from like card game backgrounds. We got people from Hearthstone, like Dog. We got people who come from like really in-depth strategy games. We got people who just clicked on it because it was in the League client and it sounded like fun. We have people coming from like other auto battlers, and there's just so many different people that are kind of coming into the scene and really enjoying it.
Yeah, like Alan ZQ, Legends of Runeterra world champion, showing up. I actually caught up with him earlier. He was saying, "Oh, this feels like I'm playing a poker event like WC poker." So it's been very, very awesome to catch up with all these other players.
Yeah, it's been cool too because there really are a lot of transferable skills between all of these different games. Whether we've talked about maybe the land buff of having the experience of playing in front of a live crowd already, or even just the risk assessment management that you need to have in order to actually compete in some of these other strategy games.
Exactly, and the ability to complain.
عادي دغري بيجيبوا بس آخر مثلا 32.
They can make some
I think
excuses.
it was Ray on the co-stream earlier who was saying that the underrated part of this event is that if you get griefed in-game, Mortdog is physically present. Go and find him. It is an opportunity to yap IRL. You can't miss that.
That's got to be the big thing, though, is we got all these people from all kinds of games, and yet somehow we've managed to have the best yappers in all of esports all in one place.
I'm just waiting for if anyone's gonna have any of the stage pop-offs. You know,
يا عالم فاتوا بس ما بدهم يفرجونا هدول ليك مباريات شغالة.
You can just point
وهي لودينج.
Saint's gonna land a smite and he's gonna be like, I did that.
Oh, I did see a big pop off with. I was talking about Socks earlier, but there was like 20 people gathered around him for that final game.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And when it happened, he jumped up out of his seat, and like 10 people jumped up around him, were patting him on the shoulders, like congratulating him for it. So it was definitely like there are the pop offs happening throughout the room. We'll see if we get one on the main stage at some point here.
Well, I think what's awesome too is that we talk often about the fact that TFT is literally a team fight, where you do have study groups, you have people that are in your building groups that really help you to try to come up with those strategies, and they get to be here in real time to support you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do think, you know, these study groups, as they're kind of called in here, or scrim groups, or whatever you want to call them, it's such an important part of an esport developing and of actually really pushing the boundaries, because I'm such a firm believer in that you are only as good as your competition. You know, if you're not practicing against the best, it's difficult to find out what
بدك 512 سماعة و512 شاشة 512 جهاز.
learning the wrong habits, the wrong strategies.
وين بيجيبون؟
people who know how to punish
شاشات.
that, right? So it's so important
سماعات
to create these study groups, create these
HyperX.
to have a diverse set of play styles, and people who are really thinking about the game, always trying to push the envelope, try new things, so you can really figure out what your best play style is.
And in TFT, they're kind of different, because what happens is there are study groups that are the people who that's your Discord server or your group chat, and you're just constantly sharing information, talking about the game. What do you think about this unit, this transition, whatever? What would you do in this spot? And then when scrim time comes, they intermix, they compete against each other, and they find out. I think to return to our NA versus the world conversation, actually a big part of the reason why NA is so strong is because we get together as a region and share information with another. It's not a situation where there's a lot of tech warding happening. We really all make each other better throughout the course of the set. So then we get to the end, and whoever happens to be alive going to the World Championship has usually been well prepared by all the best players on the server. Not the case in EU.
And I think it's so interesting because I've seen this transition. I've been around esports for a long time, and I've seen this kind of like cycle where a lot of times when a game is more in its infancy for esports, people are really trying to hold all their strategies and hoard all their strategies. They don't want to share information. They want to keep it all to themselves because they see that as the greatest advantage. But I've always really seen it as if you truly believe that you are the best and you can learn faster, you should get more from being able to share these strategies and being able to challenge each other, play against the best competition. Sure, you're kind of opening your book, so to speak, and showing them what you've got, but they're doing the same to you. And if you believe that you're the better player, you should be able to gain more from that, learn more from that. And it really does push the level of competition, not only within, a small group, but as you're saying, across the whole region.
And it evolves so much over the course of the set. So really the only time there's a lot of value to hiding tech, if you will, is if you're right before a big tournament. Regionals is when you kind of see
بس أنا أول مرة أعرف إنه هايبر إكس بيعملوا شاشات.
They've been sharing throughout the set and helping each other get better. And it's like, okay,
بعرف سماعات، بعرف ماوس وكيبورد.
And then as soon as it's over,
بس شاشة وجهاز كامل ما بعرف.
in a group chat, all the people who, if you were the best on this line, you didn't make worlds, you just help that person learn, help the people learn that line. It's just such a cool thing to see around esports. It's unique. I've been around esports for a while too, and I haven't seen anything quite like this.
Yeah, we saw so much of that going.
على فكرة هاي الكاميرا الصغيرة المحطوطة فوق الشاشة سعرها بلاوي.
Just coming and helping that group get ready. But we've talked so much about people sharing tech, and you were saying just before a big event, sometimes people will hurt it. This event is one that I've seen some of the most tech hoarding. We've seen some people post, but it's kind
ما
of
سعرها أبدا ما له مثل سعر أي ويب كام. هدول لأنه بيجي لهم وصلات خاصة تروح لسيرفرات جاكات معينة. سعرها 10 أضعاف وأحيانا 50 ضعف سعر ويب كام عادي. ما لها وصلة USB حتى ما فيك تجيب منها على البيت.
So definitely very, very competitive.
السيرفرات
a lot of these players
بتصور 4K وبتصور فريمات كتير عشان إذا تلقط إذا حبيت تلقط سلو موشن لقطة بطيئة. هاي الكابل تبعها مو USB.
It's the nature of the beast. It's a really high variance format. You got 500 people involved, so there's going to be some names going on. One of the big questions that we will find out at the end, because we've never run an event like this before, is how much can we expect the best players? How much does the cream rise to the top at the end of the day, right? When you talk about this Final 8 lobby, are we relatively unknowns? Are there one big name, two big names, three big names, right? TFT has so much opportunity for skill expression if we're going to contrast it with something like poker, where maybe the best players really can just throw out that advantage. And this, an event like this is maybe a chance to wrap up once and for all the debate over how skill expressive is TFT and how much luck is involved.
Well, especially in set 10. I feel like this is one of the sets
وأنا بعرف أقوى 30 لاعب يمكن شكليا. ليش ما بيحطوا لنا الكاميرا عليهم؟
Absolutely, and I mean I've always kind of been a believer.
أعرفهم متأكد يعني. خصوصا إنه تابعنا بطولات كأس العالم فبعرف حتى الريجنات. بعرف ريجن أمريكا وينهم ما بيحطوا لنا الكاميرا عليهم. تعال نشوف هون. هذا واحد هو اللي تحت اليمين محترف ليج اوف ليجندز كان. بس مو هي الطاولة الأساسية هي
always able to find lines. And when you watch someone's point of view and you see how difficult the decisions are and how bad some of the beats they're getting, and they're still able to figure out a top 4, I'm always more impressed watching a player scrape out a top 4 from what seemed impossible to me than I am watching a high rolled first place.
Yeah, well, we're going to get into game number 1 of Heat 2 here for our round of 5-12, and it looks like we're going to be starting out with 2 champions here for our auction for this first game.
The immediate tech that I always see with the 3
هو ليكويد اس في هذا اللي قلت لكم محترف ليج اوف ليجند فات على فريق اسمه ليكويد اخر شيء ولا بتي اف تي
It's crit dependent. It's not.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so
ويت جانجلر قوي جدا
جدا. Not skilled because anytime I've had Lily on this, I'm like, Lily, you can do it.
Yeah.
الباقي كله.
All right, well, I guess I just have to not play any more games with Lily.
ما بعرف وضعه الحالي.
4 times for me.
I like Tom Kench. I like Tom Kench. I like the bruiser start.
يلعب
That's
كوري
always
بيناتهم
where I feel
كمان.
like I've started my games.
بس المرشح انا برايي بهي المباراه مبدئيا كلاعب اقوى لاعب انا بقول لكم مين هو ويت جانجلر.
So if you have the super fan star, you get the item, you get the components, or if it's one of those
هذا بلش تغلي 8 بت بس حيبيعوا بعدين ما بظن يكمل فيه.
Then you can really make Annie sing, but Cork is going to be more consistent.
I'm going to be so interested to see if at all throughout the tournament we do get the like 6-8-bit cash out. We were talking about this. It's actually achievable now on this patch. It is very high roll. You have to get an early Corky 3. You have to be able to have things go your way, but it's a craftable spat, and it is one of those things that literally guarantees you the win, right? Like you get so much from it.
It's just very weird, right? Because you
هذا اللاعب وضعه منيح بدايته جيدة جدا. هلا حيلفل الجولة الجاي وينزل
yeah, I guess I'll go Corki 3. I
كنن
don't want to commit to this
بصير عنده
line.
سوبر
He's
فان
playing a lot of games at this weekend.
ويضل على ال 8 بت
somewhere.
ويحط الايتم الثاني اي اي على كوركي قبل على هذا اذا كان يلعب
Winning the
نظام
tournament is going to be very challenging, but you can become a legend by winning one game on game.
او ممكن ياخذ كومبوننت زياده.
We got a legendary 3-star against, Setsuko or whoever and take him down.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's how you win one of the bounties that we saw in the pre-party when you get a board like that. But I really like the place that 8-bit is in right now, especially looking at Caitlyn as kind of one of those cross. We know we were talking about that a little bit when we got into the game, but I feel like Caitlyn's in a much better spot now.
هذا هارد ستيل عم يدور.
I was about
Wet
to say,
jungler.
we got wet jungler.
جاب هارد ستيل هلا بهالجولتين القادمين
It makes sense, right? We got the
بيروق
hearts of
بس اذا ما
Visante
جابهم
already in.
بيتضايق.
He also found the Corki, but just he found 3 Corkis.
He really wanted Bo here to be able to go for red buff and have just the
الايتمات اللي حطها على كوركي معناها انه حيكبوا لكوركي.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Yes. Three Corki 2s that we've seen so far. 2 of them are the headliners. This is just a really, really good start.
هذا هو اللاعب الكوري.
One of the interesting
اوكي
things meta-wise is these are items that we saw
كثير في عالم عندك
all the
طالع على
time
كوركي.
last patch because it was just everyone trying to fast 9. This patch we talked about there's a lot more play happening on 8, and these items are not great on 8. These are items that you really do
شايف
need to get to
misfortune.
level 9 to make them shine.
That's the big thing with the red buff if he had found it, because it would have been a lot better on level 8. You can play Ezreal with those 2 items. There's actually quite a few. I'm trying to remember all of the carries that you can play with Shojin red buff, but it's almost all of them. Yeah, Garth's Ezreal, Caitlyn could run it, it would be fine. Yeah,
I don't really like Shojin on Caitlyn though, because I feel like you lose so much because the cast time is so slow.
Yeah, full AD is the best.
But no, I mean, I think there's a lot of flexible lines. We're seeing a lot more of actually the 4-cost melee carries as well. We saw red buff used by a lot of different people, even on Fiego's and
Super
Zeds,
special
to
through
get
damage.
towards level 9, things like that. So
بس
I
عنده
do think
كيل
it's
بلا
super
طعمه.
flexible, but slamming items is
هلا محله
absolutely
بشيل
the
كيل
game. It feels
بنزل
like in this set,
لولو.
right? You have to kind of, I feel like, especially with the headliner mechanic, the boards are kind of just stronger on average than they would be in a set without that. You're taking more damage. You have to kind of be able to maintain some level of power, it feels like.
For sure, although I do think this is a patch where a lot of the skill expression is going to be management of item economy. And for example, this Titan Slam that Gear has is an item that most
Liquid
players
SV
are
ما
not
رد علي.
going to be willing to
يعني كان
slam
بيخسر.
because it's an item that doesn't really perform that well on any unit at any
ركب
point.
2 بروزر واثنين
There are units that
big shot.
can sort
غلط.
of use it, but I hate it too. I would slam Sunfire and that's why every time. There's no way I'm slamming
لا
it.
يعني لا بيقدر يربح
Bo is a better
فيهم
item to play
ولا بيقدر
around.
يخسر
I would want
فيهم.
the Sunfire. It's better tempo. It's better. It just makes more sense.
I mean, it'll be
دخل
interesting to see how
بالحظ.
it develops over the couple days, but at least in all the games that I've
انت
watched so
بدك يا
far,
تربح
no one
الجولات
is
يا
not
تخسر
slamming an item
الجولات.
on the first stage. Like everyone is slamming items.
تربح
it feels
تخسر
like
تربح
every single
تخسر.
game because people are trying to keep their health up, trying to stay aggressive. I feel like Titans, yes, it does kind of, maybe it's not ideal, but it kind of feels like a lot of times it's locking you into like a melee carry style.
I almost don't like it for the conserving HP part of it, because I feel like it's such a weak item early on as well. And then as you start to scale in the game, it doesn't even stack to 25.
ما حدا طق الهارد
It
ستيل.
actually, you don't even get the value out of this item. It's why Gargantuan's so terrible, because there's no world you're getting to 40 stacks. And then the times you do, sure, yeah, you probably win the fight, but it's not consistent.
I would slam the Sunfire, then the Nashers, then the Titans. I would
yeah.
not slam that. Joining Chaos here, the pride of
شكله هذا
SEA
هياخد
is
ثلاثية
definitely one
نظيفة.
of the tournament favorites coming in. He's just been such a consistent tournament player for his entire career. Because he's from SEA, it's not a region that gets the love, but this is a player to look out for within that
بدايته
region.
كتير قوية.
SEA overall hasn't performed as well as some of the tier 1 regions.
So Chaos is like SEA, but he's also a global player because he's been around since the very beginning, and he was playing on North America. He was constantly practicing with North American players, and he's just been so solid for the entire history of the game.
Well, I think that's one of the interesting things about TFT is it's just straight up not very ping reliant.
كم مرحلة نهائية
You can
3
play on
أيام.
other servers and other regions without it being that big of a detriment. Yeah, it's not ideal, but you can play till when I was in Korea, I was playing on NA. You can play with 150 ping. It's just fine.
Yep.
can also play on your phone.
Yep.
Unless you fat finger something, in which case maybe it's a skill issue.
No, it sounds like a more talk issue to me now.
Maybe it is just a more talk issue.
Yeah, when in doubt, just blame someone else.
Oh, we've got a carousel now.
ما في سبجولة صحيح.
slams 3 people.
ما في مفاجآت.
4 people actually. 2 full item slams.
وشغلات غريبة.
You know, to your point, Azale, that it's just a lot of tempo slamming happening.
And I mean, I feel like when you're slamming an IE, you're already pretty much committing to an AD line. You're not really going to be going to AP at all. You know, so I do feel like a lot of people are kind of locking themselves into like a similar play style. And it does feel like Wedge Jungler, I think with the Shojin Nashers, you're a little bit more flexible. You can play a little bit kind of different ways, but some of these other people are already pretty locked in.
I actually really love IE Slam on this patch. I think there's so many good attack damage, you know, carries that use it in the 4 cost, right? You've got Caitlyn, you've got Ezreal that both work really well. But I also think that units like Zed and Viego also can use the IE extremely well. And then it ladders you into Kiana can use it, but it's really about,
هذا الجيم الرابع.
It's an item that works at level 9, but it's incredibly strong and flexible at level 8, and so I've been really liking it as a slam.
Especially when you have, saw so many people actually
هن 6 جيم توتال كل يوم.
Headliner. If you have someone that has a powerful spellcast, it is really strong. You know, on an early Corki, you can drop that. Getting a crit early on, especially on one of those AoE abilities, is pretty massive.
And with big shot, given the raw AD, right? It stresses really well. So you know, I'm okay with IE as a slam. I think IE tightens some of the items that I'll be curious to see how many people at the end are playing around them and finding success. This makes sense. You're playing around a board that you're confident you can be playing to preserve HP. You're going to make use of this IE. But if you actually dive deep into the data, it doesn't perform that well on any unit. It's okay on a lot of units. It's not bad. It's better than Titans. I would rather have it than Titans, but it actually is not quite as good as you would think. And in this situation where he's actually not preserving HP, he's going full loss streak, right? So it's just it's a item that I think will be somewhat controversial and will be player dependent over the course of the weekend. Yeah, for sure.
That's a good point. I was kind of wondering where you all were on this spectrum of like, how is like Giant Slayer? What would you really want to like preserve those swords for?
Giant Slayer, I feel like I almost never want it anymore.
Really?
I want it late game.
I want late game.
I don't want it
late game.
Late game is really good, but I'm talking if we're talking about early slams.
Exactly. No,
I just never want to slam that as a first item. It feels really bad. I do think, of course, late game. When people have that really beefy front line, it has a tremendous amount of value. But you know, if we're talking about first item slams, it's almost a never for me. It feels like.
سوبر فان لساتهم هذول 3 ما في حدا غير اي شيء بالتشكيله لغايه الان بس اللي بدي اشوفه في حدا جاب هارت ستيل في واحد طق ال5 كي دي اي وهذا طق الهارت ستيل مو
exactly another bow for red buff you get a tier you make Shojin like it
does
make Giant Slayer less attractive until you get to the late stage of the game.
اي سنشنال ولا هارت ستيل
full item handful. That's what I want to see.
سنشنال
we do have one full loss streaker, one full win streaker looking at Krugs, Chaos.
معناتها جيم يعني ما فيه مفاجآت كله عادي. هارت ستيل لانه ممكن يطلع لك مفاجآت هدايا غريبة اشياء مفاجئة كانت
I don't know off the top of my head, but
ايتمات
شو
شو
يسموها? Actually, as far as 5 loss goes, really good spot.
ارتيفكت.
Look at that. Yeah. It was a nice hold in a shop just to wait to have the econ to be able to grab it. So that's going to be a 2-star Bard. And you're also going to get a 2-star Lilia if you want it.
I think we do want it, Necro.
هنزل ليليا.
I'm assuming we're going to see a level here. 5 wins, pretty cheap.
Yeah, makes sense.
It's the 4 Sentinel. It's a huge spike. I mean, this is just a great board.
This is an insane board.
He's got good backline. He's got good front line. Really
هذا اللاعب هلا بده يروح على يكمل تبع انتصارات بيحاول وليكويد هذا اس في سيمفيكيوس اللي قلتوا عليه الكومبو بين ال5 كي دي اي و3 سوبر فان منيح كمان ممكن يكسب مو شرط يربح.
I want to talk a bit about Saint as well, because now that we've got him on our screen, like he's in a decent spot in this game, but Saint was doing incredibly well in the North American ladder leading up to this event. He was like top 3 in boxes.
Yeah, I think he got second even.
He might have ended up second, but Saint was incredibly good on this. And the last time Saint was really good in tournament, wasn't it set 4 with Chosen? He was incredibly well. He was at least pretty good on that. It was his best performance.
I watch a lot of Saint because when Saint is doing well, something is happening. He has some understanding that goes beyond, because Saint is actually, I would say his play is relatively unclean. He makes a lot of micro mistakes in his play and not always doing board optimizations, but his macro is oftentimes where he really shines. And the reason why he was better than people on the previous patch is he just understood the Fast 9 meta. He was playing far more diverse. He wasn't always playing around Ziggs, but well considering Ziggs was last patch. And get to level 9 as consistently on this patch, it will be much harder. There's a lot more stage 4 pressure than there was in the previous.
هيك شغلات يعني وزعتها.
I think we got some pentakill action up in that top right corner. A 5 KDA here.
Yeah, 5 KDA, you know, has obviously the Kai'Sa too. Board's looking pretty good. You're not going to be able to, I think, take down what Chaos has, but looking pretty good.
Here. Did he use those? Did anybody see if he used the rolls?
I would be stunned. I would be stunned if he used them.
I don't think he used them. This is the same
entire
board he had.
playstyle has been oriented around pushing levels.
And you can see in the bottom left, it shows how much gold he spent on rolls. Okay. So he spent 0 gold on.
0 gold on rolls, so he's going to be holding them. And the question is, will he be able to get to 9 holding them, or what is his new playstyle look like on the pack? Because I thought he was struggling a little bit and adjusting to the new pack. What form has he found, and is it still level 9 Centric, or is he more willing to play around 8? The IE slam suggests level 8.
Yeah, and I mean, this board gets plenty of kills as well, right? So even if he doesn't win a lot of these rounds, which he is streaking, but this should be easy enough to make 7, probably even go 8 without many upgrades whatsoever.
Easy.
That was Chaos's board too, that he just beat.
Oh, that's
actually crazy.
That's a really, really big win.
Chaos was on a win streak and took healing orbs.
Just
so
way more damage on Saint's side. Like
yeah,
way more damage. That Kai'Sa 2 with those items is going to pump out so much more DPS. And early Viego, that's a really good unit.
4 true damage too. I feel like when I was looking around the field of competition earlier today, true damage was a big standout.
True damage has really stepped up. A lot of players were talking about this as like a kind of attack. They were looking at true damage. They thought it might be pretty good. They'll pivot into it if they see a spot for it. But as I wandered the room as well, we actually just saw a lot of people playing into true damage. I don't even know exactly like the perfect true damage composition that you want to put together right now, but I saw a lot of people splashing 4 or finding an emblem and playing 4. Yeah. Right? That's the big thing we see is a lot more people willing to play 4 true damage specifically.
Especially with like Kiana and stuff late game, it can obviously cap out incredibly high, but even for early and mid game, Senna is incredibly powerful. If you can get a headliner Senna,
it's just the best.
Really strong. Exactly.
It's just Senna 1 does unreasonable things with some items. So you'll see a ton of mid-game boards having true damage on them. The +1 is really go vertical. Also, if you get blinged out, then you can just stay committed to it.
بس 3
off of it. But I think it's a huge
هم بيلعبون مع انتصار يعني هارد ستيل ويننج. هارد ستيل ويننج يعني جوائز خفيفة كثير بس منيحة.
I mean, Saint is first to level 7, obviously trying to protect his win streak. He's on a 5 streak there. Did go down to 27 gold to actually maintain it. But if he can keep that rolling,
27 gold
has all those free rolls. He's in a great spot.
Level 7, 3-3, 27 gold. Really good because he's probably going to make 30, 40, 50, right? So he's going to be level 7, 50 gold on his Wolves round. So Saint's in an awesome spot. He's got generically powerful items, although I think he's getting credit for a death super fan item. I think Xiao is as well. I don't think Xiao has 4 completed items yet.
It works really great in this double silver lobby as well because he's got these like econ augments. Well, even though he doesn't have any combat augments, everyone else is on silvers, so it's not like they're getting a hugely meaningful difference over him. And so because of this, he's been able to build such a massive economy lead. And with those extra rerolls that we were talking about, yeah, he's at 730
هذا عنده كتير ريتس بس رغم هيك ما له قوي كتير.
Because he's going to have those rolls once he gets up to 8.
Big question for Saint is going to be, how does the level 8 roll down go? He will be skipping 7 entirely.
مو يعني ما قوي ما بيربح جولات بس صارف جولد كتير. هي القوة لا تتناسب مع الشيء اللي حتصير بعد شوي.
Definitely in a spot where he can think about
ممكن يربح كم جولة بعدين يخسر كل شيء.
How these next couple rounds go, right? If you can maintain your streak and if you can keep your HP really high, maybe you don't even roll at all on 8. Maybe you're just saying, hey, we're gonna just keep going, or maybe just try to roll a little bit, replace your headliner, try to stabilize through that, but don't overroll.
اللي ضده هلا
quickly to 9.
ربحوا ومعه 50 جول.
Used to be don't roll on 8.
Yeah.
That was the way you played. If you spent meaningful amount of gold on 8, you were essentially dooming your game. Whereas this patch,
هلا المشاهدين اللي بيعرفوه يلا روح ارجع على ليج اوف ليجند مالك فيها ل تي اف تي.
Open up chosen and roll a little bit. You want to roll the bare minimum, and a lot of the skill expression is knowing what board is stable around which chosen, how much frontline based on your items.
It was the big thing we were talking about over on the coach stream with Soju. Is like talking about which forecasts are good, and in my mind, there's actually quite a few forecasts that are good. And if you've built flexible enough items in the early game, there's so many outs, and even then, if you are able to put together a decent carry of 3-cost, and you look at the rest of the shop, not just the Chosen, you can just buy any 4-cost tank and put it together with a decent backline, and it can get you to that 9.
For sure. I'm really excited actually to see Wet Jungler's transition specifically. I'd love to make sure we go back to his board whenever he goes to level 8, and if he tries to roll, what does he play around? Because, like we talked about at the outset, these items are really good early, and they're really good late at level 9 boards. They're awkward to play around an 8, so the style of TFT that it seems like where you're kind of building around a 4-cost Chosen on 8 is going to be a lot harder for him to do. He's one of the favorites in the field, actually, right? Coming off a second-place World Championship performance, really strong player from EMEA, so I'll be curious to see how he's navigating this. This is going to be kind of a complicated spot to figure out in this patch.
We've got Wolves now, so this is a nice opportunity to see where the econ is going to be after we do finish up this PvE round, and then I guess kind of see where players want to commit a little bit more, because I think a lot of players at this point are leaving themselves pretty open if they want to try to take a different line.
Yeah, we can see Lil Kahuna just pick up a Vex headliner there. So pivoting over, going to be playing that. I'm not sure if it was like an emo headliner or
Vex would be really solid at this stage of the game, though, especially with so many people prioritizing like Yone and Zed and a lot of the melee carries. I actually think Vex does a really good job of countering them, so it can be a solid pickup on stage 4 when people are playing around those melee carries.
The AoE CC is really good if there's a melee heavy bard.
So it looks like this person is committed into the country reroll line. It just seems like if you're rolling at level 7, you're opening up Chosen.
عم يدور على أرجوت ها؟
Surprised if that was the game plan. I'm not sure.
أو سميرة بس يفضل أرجوت هيرو.
Why? Oh, actually, I do remember. We were on this board. It was right after opening Carousel. He slammed it on Eve, which was not a good item. So I feel like this spot would be about 100 times better if you hadn't slammed the Rage Blade, but it kind of is what it is. Not able to find a Chosen, not able to get 5 country online. So a little bit of an awkward spot here for Hunts.
But does have 5 Urgots, and I don't think we've really seen that many Urgots out. There is like one headliner there, but we'll see. Like if people are actually going to contest him, if they're going to stick on it, then it gets really difficult if you can't hit that headliner. But if he can hit an Urgot headliner, then hey, you're kind of in the money. You're already basically at that 3-star.
You know, in the data, there's 2 augments they're not getting. I was gonna say, if we get a Prismatic, there's Infernal Contract and Prismatic Ticket that are potential outs for him to get there, and both of them are really bad in the data. I was talking with Panda about this earlier, and he thinks they're still in like the unclickable tier, but I think like looking at this spot, like I feel like Prismatic Ticket's a pretty good out for me if I'm playing that country line.
Soju had a game where he went second in his second game. Oh, that was a Samira 3 that we just saw, I think. Whoa. Saint, meanwhile, did wind up fast aiding, has hit this Ezreal, and this looks like a green light spot to me. He's got enough frontline, even though this Nico is only at 1-star and be way better at 2-star, the double Warmogs Bramble frontline, it's gonna act like a 2-star in terms of its HP pool, and he's got so much damage on this Ezreal with the red buff, i.e. Deathblade combination. So Saint in a very good spot to get to 9 cap out and win this lobby.
He even hit the early Kane, right? So he still actually has a 3 Heartsteel in without actually hurting too much, because it was a Heartsteel Ezreal, I do believe. We can see Zed
والنهاية ختامها مسك.
Still has Jazz in there, and we'll see how this Zed is going to do, because at least in the lobbies that I've been watching, we've been seeing basically no Zed getting played at all.
مين بيحب الزعتر؟
This is another controversial unit. Soju thinks that Zed's like the best.
هذا شكله معقول يروح على كراود دايفر؟ أنا بلاقيها منيحة والله، بس ما العالم ما بتحبها.
And I think Kali's better as well, but Zed, especially the crowd diver version, can put in quite a bit of work.
This is an important fight though, because take a look at this. Chaos is rolled completely down at 0 gold right now. Is really hoping that this is going to be enough to be able to break through these next few. Yeah. Looking at the Akali, it's always a little scary when you see that.
Unit, yeah, just the double healing.
بالبطولات اللي بيربح هو اللي بيلعب تشكيلات ما حدا عم يلعب.
I mean, it's always a little bit scary for Gear as well, right? He's on a 4 loss streak.
هذا شلون جاب يوريك كمان؟
He's still playing Corky Chosen. Does he think he can get to 9?
It's the 8-bit version, which is like, there's no way he's playing for the owl. Like he's played it all game, but his spot isn't like.
You literally can't get it unless you get like a 3-star Corky super early. If you're talking about like 6-8 big cash out,
but it's
really
weird to keep this on your board at 4-3.
Yeah.
Maybe it just hasn't seen anything better, but he didn't even sell it to like dig for it, right?
Weird is a nice way of saying bad, Cass.
You know, yeah, you're right. It's kind of bad. I feel like you have to cycle,
on 4-3 with that much gold. I mean, it's one thing if you're 50 gold or whatever, and you're saying, hey, I have infinite HP, I'm gonna sack and go 9, but that's not what's happening here. What's happening in front of us is an Akali versus that Corky Chosen, and it's just not going to take care of business.
It's winning, I guess. Yeah, no, it's winning.
Is Corky the god?
Like, yes, actually.
Is this the new Annie? You just just play the chosen right out the gates, and it can get you through stage 4.
The fact that he's not selling it suggests he thinks he can get to 9 on it, right? Because otherwise he would sell it for sure. So it'd be really interesting. I will love to check it on that spot and see how he navigates.
Yeah, because you do the same thing with Annie. Like, you like to roll for the 3-star, but if you are like contested, you just play the chosen, and you just play it up till, you know, stage 4.
And we saw 3 Corky 2s on 2.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're not really going for a Corky 3 that game.
Yeah, Corky 3 is never really going to be part of this game.
It was never going to be a part of it. But he does have the Corky chosen. He's already picked up a Yorick as well. So
I'm just really curious. So yeah, I mean, I guess he thinks this board goes to 9. That's the only explanation that I can come up with. Or he thinks it's stable for these 2 fights, and that opening chosen isn't good enough, and he'll sell it and roll on 5-1.
Well, he did just pick up the Yorick as well, so
Yep.
he's got 3 pentakilling, which is going to be really helpful as well, just to kind of help stabilize that front.
Okay, so this...
If he got a Yorick off Carousel, then he has a pair of Yoriks, because he already had a Yorick, I think.
I found a Ziggs as well.
Yeah, he did find a Ziggs. I don't think Ziggs does what for this board what it used to. I think that Sona is the new Ziggs in this situation, where Sona it uses the TF tax speed and just makes
اللاعب الكوري عم بيلعب على المضمون ها.
This Ziggs will put in some work, and it's an early Zig, so it's still a big hit.
هذا بده بس توب 4.
Same thing, but going up against Gear, that's really weak board playing around this 1-star Karthus with a Rage Blade, so White Jungler's able to get it done against not the most scary of boards.
White Jungler السابع بده نمبر 1. كان هيك نزل لتحت.
He was able to find a headliner. His front line's relatively stable with Blitzcrank on stage 4, but
هذا عم بيلملم
not having much of the way backline, just 1-star TF, Ziggs with the shred. It helps you get there.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, Wrong's still winning, right? He's at 55 health and with that Corky, so he's going to take the Corky to level 9 for sure. I think at this point he should be able to get there. Zane can go 9, you know, after PV phase if he wants, or he can just sack a couple rounds and try to actually, you know, cap out even higher. Because he's still very healthy as well. He's still playing 3 Heartsteel with that.
استغرب انه الزعتر شغله رخيصه كثير. يعني يعتبر من الاكلات.
That's also Heartsteel, so he's in a really good spot, and I think as long as he has a pretty good roll down at 9. This definitely could be a potential lobby winner.
This is comfort zone for Saint. He has the highest.
يمكن لو كان غالي كان احترموه العرب. صاروا يطلبوه.
That's going to kill units. He's on a 2 loss, but it's not like he's losing really badly.
والله كنت روح لاماكن نطلب اكلات وكذا، فلما اطلب انا زعتر يطلعوا فيني انه ليش عم تطلب زعتر؟
Best in terms of highest win share in this lobby. Now he might flame out, he might miss, it happens, but I agree. I think Saint's in the best spot to win this lobby.
حلاوته هيك بيعلق بين الاسنان وكذا.
يعني فيه اكشن. Getting a lot of value out of binaries is definitely very good. Wait, no, that's super fan. There's binary on other boards as well. We have like 2 or 3 people playing binary.
So that very early Samira 3 for Hunt has been able to get it done.
بس المخرج غبي جدا لانه ما عرف ابدا يختار الطاوله اللي يعمل لها هوست.
He has a duplicator and he's 2 off Urgot, so if he wants to actually commit it, he's
في اسماء كثير مهمه بالبطوله.
You know, maybe you can actually rebuild your economy, but
يعني مالتي شامبيونز ربحانين كذا بطوله عالم. حطت لنا هاي المباراه. هلا هدول لعيبه اكيد كلهم تشالنجرات يعني بس انه
and he gets a full red buff for this Urgot.
ان شاء الله المباراه الجاي يحط لنا شيء منهم لاشرح لكم نشوف.
Urgot scales really well with attack speed, it cleaves and so it makes use of the anti-heal.
ذكروني احكي لكم قصه دي اس جي الجديد. مين عمله؟ قديش؟ ومين ضمن له؟
duplicate here on the
I think you should. I think at this point you kind of have to.
It'd be very greedy not to. He's 3 off of a Mumu though.
Saint's still not rolling. He's gonna sack another round or 2, get the next cash out from his Heartsteel, and then just full send it with the free rerolls. Plus he'll have 50-60 gold, and you got good chances to hit.
In the Hearts scale with stage, so the losses in stage 5 are going to be
3 Heartsteel actually
really valuable. It's a really good,
insane on stage 5.
This trait, and a big part of the people who are going to find success this weekend are the ones that understand when and how to play around Heartsteel, because it is so different than every econ trait we've ever printed. It's not about do you get it on stage 2. It's not about do you play full loss streak into a giga win out. It's about hey, you just actually want to put this on
مشان بالبرد ما يروح يغسل ايديه.
Create as many caches as you can because you do get scaling increased value from each successful
stage.
Yeah, I agree. I was talking about this as
إلا إذا أكلي
people are still overplaying it in a way they're
أكلة بدها غسيل إيدين
tilt over, right? Where they're trying to
بس
guarantee
على
a 5
جبنة
loss with
وزعتر
2-1
ما لسه تاتش
heart steal,
بكفي
but you're getting only 3 heart steal. You're getting so little
اللي
value
ما
out
عنده
of it,
تاتش
and
يجيب
it can cost you
تاتش يا
so much
جماعة.
HP that oftentimes I've seen a number of
أنا
games
بحس
already
أي
in the
واحد
tournament where people
قاعد
are
قدام كمبيوتر
overrating
اليوم
that loss streak, and then they hit 5
في
heart
شغلتين
steal,
لازم
but they're
يكونوا
at 50
قدامه
health
موجودين.
or they're at 40 health, and then you can't actually
علبة
really
محارم
commit to that loss streak on 5 heart steal where you could get a tremendous
مشان
cash
إذا
out.
كب شيء على الكيبورد يمسحه دغري، مشان إذا بده ياكل يحط محارم على الماوس أو على الكيبورد مشان ما يوسخهم، مشان أي حالة و تاتش للتنظيف والتعقيم.
No mana Jin is so slow, and remember that Jin doesn't get that attack speed, right? It converts the additional attack speed into additional damage, so this is definitely not the roll down Saint was looking for, not the chosen he wanted to play around. That is not a spot I'm excited
And now he's
about.
at 17 health.
Yeah.
Right? So he actually did the full roll down. And then you're in this awkward spot, and I've had this happen a lot of times. I love playing Fast 9, where you hit a chosen that you weren't really looking for. You're in a bad spot. You're still losing, and you're like,
هذا
well,
أحلى
do I
تانك
sell the
بالعالم.
chosen because then that gets
I
really,
love.
really dicey. But from here, it's not a win out unless he starts hitting some more.
It's not, and I'm a little
صراحة
surprised at how that
هذا اللاعب حاول جهده، هذا هو لاعب ليج اوف ليجند.
I think he needs to remove her on
أنا
this
غير
side.
مكان الكاميرا تبعي شوفوا وجوه اللاعبين.
Drops her fan is great, right? You can see it's any way of getting the Shogun on the Jin because the difference between the Shogun on the Jin and not is just massive.
I mean, Jin is just so slow. Like, I am so not a fan of Jin unless you have, like, if you have the most map board, yes, it is really
إيه،
fun.
أنا ظهرت
Right, Saint.
هيك شيء.
There's just
شوفوا
no
وجوه
way
اللاعبين
that
أحسن
it's two items
من
in
وجهي.
here when you have his DIS essentially move up
هم
is slightly better.
هذا هو
You really do need that
لاعب
damage.
ليج اوف
It
ليجند.
doesn't start doing his damage until he gets
حيخسر.
4 turrets out.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be item on Kiana,
قلت
but
لكم.
like you can't sacrifice your
البداية اللي عملها
necessary Jin item. to do that.
شال شيء اسمه لعب
ودخل
شيء اسمه حظ.
بطولة
بطولة ما بصير. بطولة يا بتلعب على المضمون يا بتلعب تشكيلات ما حدا بيلعبها. هي القواعد تبع البطولات. اما تلعب على الحظ فيا بتطلع الثامن سابع يا بتطلع اول، مو ثاني حتى بتطلع اول. بس شو يعني انك تطلع سابع ثامن؟ انك انت على الاغلب طلعت من البطولة خلاص، فرصك قلت كثير. يعني هاي ريسك هاي فاليو.
So like if I was in his situation, I think you could have kept playing Super
يقول
Fan,
لك تمام
keep the Death Blade,
للكل.
you go Shojin plus the IE, and then you just play the T4.
بس
You finally hit the
الأول
Soda,
على
it's a really big
اللعبة
deal.
يا
He's been
ترى.
waiting to be able to do this for the whole time.
Okay, so Kiana.
Okay, so this is correct for sure.
انا توقعاتي كانت انه ويت جانجلر يطلع الاول والكوري يطلع الثاني. هذا صرف كل شيء عنده.
And it's like, yeah, it is a jazz board, but 2 jazz doesn't really do that much for you anymore. And he's not going to hit.
والله بده الفلات، ما في الفلات.
You know, he has a pair of Yorks.
هذا شبع من حظه.
Well, he drew a ghost, and it's the Corky board still, so I assume we're okay
بده
here.
الفلات. منيح انه عنده جين ليفل 2 بس باقي جيشه كله ليفل 1 كله.
I mean, if Saint
جيش
loses this
واحدة.
one, I'm a Corky one trick. I'm never selling
I'm
Jin
convinced
ever
Jin is
again.
the worst unit in the game.
I mean, this is like high key close.
ربح شبح.
But I was thinking a way he could have beefed up his front line is you play
هاي
that
فرصة
Kiana, you put the red
لحتى
buff on it,
يقدر
and then
يظبط
you
شيء.
scout like hell.
هاي علاوي بده علاوي
Other
ثاني.
items for your front line. Do have a set too. If he gets items on it, it does make this
He's
good
gonna think about
enough
selling there
for early stage 5.
Oh.
He's gonna think about selling the Jin
Yeah,
there.
for the Sona too.
The heart steal is so good, but he doesn't have a damage dealer if he does that. I don't think
الكوريين يا
he's so good. I
شباب
don't think he does that.
يتدخلون.
So here we are. We're level 9.
Edgelord
We got to
King.
level 9 with not very much gold.
والله
And you can't.
مو
Kane could
معقول
work here, actually.
ما ينزل كين محل. ايوه
I mean, this actually.
هلا هيك كنت عم بقول معقول انه ما ينزل كين. ما رح تقول
Yeah, we saw a
الجملة.
lot of success, you know, with these games.
انا بفكر والكوري بينفذ.
Last set of lobbies, it can definitely do
يا
it.
حوينتك
It
انت
can do
ولا
that,
مو يا
like,
حوينتك؟
really
فرجيني شو
dominate. If it
طور.
does not, a lot of these single target units then just
طور
hit too hard with the Jin,
علاوي
always
واحد
center
ما
can really burst it down, so we'll
ما
see.
طور شيء.
It's double healing. That's the big deal. It needs to be able to sustain for the whole fight. Saint has built a stable board, and you know this is a situation where, especially if he hits allowing to Yorick 2, it gets dicey.
If he hits that,
on
he
level
can
9,
go
2
back.
HP, but you only need
2
1
HP.
He's got more than enough to spare, and if he hits those 2 units, I think he probably still does go on and win the game.
إذا بيساوي خدوها مني، إذا بيقدر هذا اللاعب الأخير يجيب البلاتينية بس عنده أمل يصير توب 4. بعدين شوفوا لي هالبطولة الأول طاقة 19 18 16 13 12 8 2. هلا بجولة واحدة يمكن يموتوا 3 بدون مبالغة، يمكن 3 يموتوا هلا بجولة. بس أنا برجع بضل بقول عتبي على المخرجين تبع TFT كل البطولات لهلا ما بيعرفوا كتير يقلبوا الكاميرا، بيضيعوك. بس هو ضايع ما عرفان شو يحط. المفروض مثلا تقلب على كل واحد شو عنده بعدين بتخلي الكاميرا على اللي بده يطلع هلا، يعني اللي هو مخاطر. هيك بنصير عرفنا خلص هذا عنده كذا، هذا عنده كذا، هذا معه كذا، هذا ناقصه كذا، هذا اللي هلا يمكن يطلع. يلا هاي فايت مهمة كتير. طلع ولا لا؟ طلع ولا لا؟ الله يمكن يطلع. طيب بس لا في ميزة كتير حلوة انه ماتت سونا ورا بكير. طاقته واحد. هذا ماشي؟ كم واحد مات؟ 3. توب 5 اللي كان أخير صار 5 أو صار توب 5. هلا بقى هدول كلياتهم الأول والثاني والثالث أمنوا توب 3، ما بتوقع يطلعوا غير توب 3 إلا إذا خبصوا على الأخير. المفروض منطقيا يطلعوا توب 3 كلهم 3 ياخذوا 3 مرات. تعال شوف هذا اللي بيطلعوا بظن. سميرة 3 أورجوت 3، بس في عندنا مشكلة وحيدة إنه أورجوت ما عنده ايتم ثالث، واي ايتم اللي هو لازم يكون بي تي. بس رغم هيك كافي شكله بدون ايتم ثالث. لا والله مو كافي، ما هاي كثير بمي. اوه جيل ربح، مات واحد. صفي هذا ليكويد. اذا هذا اللاعب بعد ما الناس قالت له ارجع على ليج اوف ليجند، هلا قالوا يلا ماشي الحال خليك تفتي. منطق 4 ستريك. جينا بنعمل كل شيء طبعا. كمان في شغله انه بف الجاز معه كثير تريد شغالين. في زيجز بس ما بيقدر يشتري.
You need a heart rate monitor to confirm what you're saying.
Listen, if that's not a resting rate of 50.
اوه ليكيوري هاي فايت قوية. الكوري ضد ليكويد. عم اذا الكوري ربح كون توقعاتي زبطت 100%. ويت جنجلر بعدين ربحوا. كون معلم. طلع الرابع. مبدئيا اللي توقعتهم يطلعوا اول ثاني هن موجودين بهدول الثلاثه يا شباب. انا توقعت ويت جنجلر الاول والكوري الثاني. قبل ما تبلش مباراة الأسماء.
And he did have a lot of gold to do it, plus all the free rolls. Sometimes it can be in that spot, and I know this can be a tough decision. It's like when you're going for a fast 9 style and you get to 9, you really want to hit a legendary, right? Like you really want to hit a 5-cost headliner. But if you're rolling, it's only a 10% chance. Sometimes you're 10, 15 rolls in, you haven't actually hit it yet, and then all of a sudden you're running out of gold, and you're like, well, should I have just taken the Thresh? Should I have just taken the Ezreal? Should I have just taken something else? It can be really, really tough.
Yeah, and we'll see a lot of players even sometimes tunnel on it, and they'll miss like upgrades in their shop of other things that could have built a pretty good board overall, and then you're broke. And a lot of times the best players don't do that. I don't think Saint's a player who would have been skipping a lot of upgrades. I mean, there's a reason he climbed so much LP. There's a reason he was one of the people that answered the survey that Ganglion sent out. He said his form is at a 9. He's at some of the best, and he doesn't get nervous here at all. So.
Oh, the Samira takes care of business against that Kane in the back line. There is still an Ezreal pumping out the DPS.
Yeah, no sustain on the Samira, so this next Ezreal cast might get close.
It's going to be really close. The Urgot is still alive. Here comes the Samira cast. Big DPS is going to be Ezreal versus Samira.
Got it.
And that is it.
That is a double kill.
The Corky Whisper into a double kill for the top one.
Is it bad or is it tech, Bryce?
I have a lot of thoughts about what
حبيت اسال القاعة هي
First among them is that you'd like to apologize to Corky players everywhere.
Yes,
I think you're a Corky one chick
and to
now.
Corky personally, it's not. Is it? Do I need to apologize to the players or to the Corky that I
Do you
doubted?
apologize to the Corky or to the actual ship that he's piloting? You know, who's the real athlete?
That's actually
here?
a really good point. Corky just sits there and
He's just
auto
sitting
attack.
there.
Doesn't do anything.
Yeah, he's not doing anything.
هات لنشوف.
So lazy.
Yeah,
All the other units are like running around the board, dashing around the board.
exactly.
This guy's just chilling
He
in
can
the
just get out, do something himself.
He's just listening. He's got his 8-bit soundtrack going on. He's just
He's
hanging
just
out.
vibing, yeah. He's got the speakers.
He's just
yeah.
getting in there, bumping.
He's actually just playing a video
أنا على
game.
فكرة هاي الموسيقى اللي طالعة
Respect though, Brong, really good game from him, able to make it happen.
ما عرفت باللعبة كيف
But some
تحطها.
pretty surprising finishes. I feel like the country ruler was in what seemed like a pretty rough spot, but then was able to 3-star really
يعني
quickly.
المفروض تفوت على السيتنج
حط
انه تغير السماعات لبفلات اللعبة هيك شغلة تبع الريمكس. عملتها بس ما طلعت
We saw his board. He was on like 3 or 4 Samiras, and then next round he's on a Samira 3.
I think the big
without it being a headliner.
Yeah,
He did have a
he hit the
headliner.
headliner. So I think he had
Yeah,
action,
yeah,
and he grabbed the headliner on the roll down, which I assume would happen. He was really early.
Yeah, but still, like, was very close to getting that Urgot 3 and then just, like, hit it. It was
Urgot
also,
3.
هي
yeah,
الطاقية
very-
البرتقالية.
but literally just kind of the perfect storm to be able to make sure that that country board was going to be able to get off the ground and running.
And I don't think we're talking about the winning board enough.
هذا
You know, a lot
الحيوان.
of players in this
وهذا
field are
اسمه
not particularly open to
شونك.
Kane. I think that's a huge mistake,
لا،
especially in
شونك
that situation
السمين
where you have
يمكن.
double healing. I don't know that you can do any better than Kane.
على
Chosen, and
حافظهم.
then the correct decision to play around Ezreal as the backline carry, not a 5-cost AD. I think Ezreal is going to be more consistent source of DPS with those items than Jhin would be, for example.
Yeah, I think people default to Jhin way too much when Ezreal I think is really strong. You know, I do think having that backline access works really well, especially in conjunction with Kane. You can sometimes get to that backline a lot more easily. If an Ezreal ult goes through, Kane gets in the backline on these softened up targets, you can really go crazy.
And sometimes even if it is, Heartsteel Kane, you end up linking that, and you're actually just getting extra components as that game is going on. Even if you're winning your rounds,
That was what Saint was doing, right?
Stuff. Yeah, you're still getting things from it, improving your board. It's the same. One of the reasons Kiana has the highest cap in the game. You get those extra components to cap out your board even further. So it kind of gives you that same out to even beat those Kiana boards that are capping out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Saint hit that early Kane. He had his headliner being a Heartsteel Ezreal, so he played that for a while, got a little bit more income. Heartsteel across all the lobbies I've been watching today has been a really big part of it. People are splashing into this, and the best players are really understanding, just how long to commit to this, how much they can actually get.
The units are just too strong, right? The reality is
كوريا تتصدر.
among the best
especially
three
since the
costs.
patch, because
Set and Yone are among the best 3 costs. You're just not sacrificing unit strength in order to have their easy to play around. Their traits aren't bad. They're secondary traits, right? So a lot happening. The real unsung hero of this whole situation was the binary value. He wound up with a bunch of items that he could spread out really well. He got tons of good value from binary and his upgrades, and also just the recognition of the ability to get to 9 on Corky. That is not something I have seen done yet on this patch. He was correct in his ability to do there. He hits on level 9 and he wins the game.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to talk a little bit about Hunters as well, because we were talking about the Titans Resolves and how we don't like that item so much as a slam. There's actually one out that I like a lot with Titans Resolve. It's actually playing around country. It's actually playing into that line and playing around Urgot. I think he's one of the few units that can actually use it quite well. He's tanky enough that he lives and he'll actually stack up, and then he gets the value out of the resistances and gets to regen back up. So
especially with Mosher slashed in, like everyone just plays set alongside that board. Get the Mosher in, get the additional Omni Vamp, but he even had the 3-star Amumu in as well, so was able to hit quite a lot and push some levels. Ended up being a pretty successful line for him. I do think, if you can hit your 3-star Urgot and Samira relatively early, that board can get really strong.
بيعملوا لنا شي حركة يدخلونا على اللوبيات الثانية شوي بالوقت الفاضي. على هدول.
Play around 3-star Urgot, 3-star Samira, 3-star Amumu, sometimes 3-star Set. You have Thresh 2 up there, Vex as well, and so it's just really easy to. The board scales infinitely as the game goes on. There's never having too many items in the line.
And I always really like when you're playing those compositions, those lines that can use AP items, AD items, tank. Like you can use everything very easily. You have a holder for everything you want.
Well, this was an amazing first game for Heat number 2. We still have 2 more games to determine which of our 4 players from this lobby are going to be able to move forward. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we've got game number 2 of Heat 2.
دعاية هايبر اكس هي موسم البطولة. بس والله شكلها جيد مو سيء، بس لازم تكون رخيصة. ما لازم يكون غالي. هي سكورات اللوبيات الجديدة ولا القديمة؟ قديمة. روست ليكو 9. هايبر اكس كان لازم يعملوا ماوس وكيبورد وسماعات TFT مكتوب عليهم TFT وهيك شغلات. هي الذكاء يعرضوهم بالبطولة، تكون ألوانهم حلوة وكذا، بينباع منهم بلاوي، بينما هلا عم يعرضوا لك نفس منتجاتهم اللي بيستعملوها على طول. هلا برافو عملوا كرسي، بس الناس قليلة كتير اللي تشتري كرسي. هلا أنت قاعد على كرسي مريح، كم سنة بدك لتخطر عبالك تشتري كرسي جديد؟ اما ماوس وكيبورد وسماعات هي دايما. يلا خلص العداد.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I've played TFT since
هذا اسمه
set 1,
ريدت.
the beta for set 1. Literally
دخل بنادي
the
جديد.
other major like in-person tournament besides like, well, not even Worlds has been in person because of like COVID and everything that's happened since. So yeah, like we had TFT Summit, which was just like a handful of streamers and players to get together in person, and that was one of the most fun weeks of my life. So I'm excited to bring it back. This is basically going to be the same thing, and I'm super excited for that. Just to compete in person, hang out with everyone. It's a way different experience playing like next to people than online. So I'm super excited.
What an exciting sentiment to share here that we are all in person at the TFT Vegas Open. We are in the middle of a heat number 2 of our top 512 that are here competing. So things are getting pretty heated up.
You know, I actually got a note from production before I came up here, and they said, there's not enough bias on this couch. So I just want to take a quick little survey. Raise your hand here. Who is expecting Chaos to go first the next 2 games?
Chaos to go first the next 2
Fake
games.
fan. Fake fan. Fake fan. Chaos is the coolest guy, wears the coolest clothes, is the man from Singapore, builds the best boards, and he's about to take it home.
I'm here for it.
I'm here for the conviction, actually. I think the way that you said that makes everybody believe that, not gonna lie.
Listen, we've got 2 more games left. It didn't go his way. He wanted to make everyone feel like they belonged there with him.
A false sense of security.
Exactly.
That's the gentleman's agreement.
زحمة زحمة.
He's reeled him in, and now it's time to play.
Now it's time for chaos.
هاي إيميلي
Time
1
for chaos.
وهذا
It's all in the name,
سكاي توست.
apparently. One of the biggest names in the house, too, you
Disguised
see him on the
Toast.
screen here, Disguised Toast. He has been such a huge part
هاي تشالنجر.
here to be able to not just compete, but also to be able to sponsor some of the players that are here at the event.
Yeah, I mean, he's sponsoring 10 players for TFT. You know, he's sponsoring a league team. He's getting into Val. He's getting into all the Riot titles. So definitely doing a lot. This guy's definitely one of the most, I think, exciting new esports teams around. And the hoodies are looking pretty nice, I'm just going to say.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about TFT, the Vegas Open being the celebration, right? And honestly, you kind of have to be thankful for these people like Toast, right, who have actually poured so much in to get all of these personalities here and taken care of. And it's all just a big part where everyone here, it feels like we're all just cogs in the wheel that make up this great big story of TFT.
Yeah, it's really cool because there's actually there's also Team Juno and there's Team High Roller. There's a couple other teams that have brought a bunch of people in.
Then we also have Box, right? He's another person that I feel like we would be remiss to not
Robbie
shout out.
Three.
Here's one of the people that have really helped put TFT on the
Looks,
map
looks.
with a lot of different people's radars. He was
هذا
sadly
منيح.
eliminated here, but this is a
Challenger
highlight
صار
from
كمان.
his
Oh, I
Take
didn't know that, but I was going to say, oh, that's a pretty good start. 6 Yasuos on 1-4. I
Sorry
was
to
like,
spoil that for you.
yeah. I was
Eliminated?
Like, you ruined the end of the movie. I was just getting excited.
They ruined it for me in my year.
In the previous patch, it was like such bait when you were given that many Yasuos. It's like, oh, I feel like I want to reroll this, and then you would just go 8. This patch with the true damage being.
Anyway, unfortunately, came up a little short, but that's
شكله طلع اوت.
TFT.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you're playing a lot of these reroll lines. We haven't been seeing too many
I
players
know
do
هذا
well with those
يعني
reroll
كان
lines.
مرشح.
And it looked like he didn't even have Senna as his headliner. He had, I think it was like a Mumu headliner. It looked like with
بس
the
هاي
Senna
أول مرة
3, so
يفوت
a
بطولة.
lot of the power with that Senna, I think, is in that headliner ability, having the bigger,
مرشح إنه
bigger
هذا
kind of
السيزون
circle on the damage.
I think we're seeing the true damage line actually kind of come to life. I've been circling around, kind of, you know, being a vulture on some of the different setups, and we're actually seeing true damage being played both vertically, but also in the reroll variation as well.
We really have, and I would love to see what maybe some of our other big streamers have been up to. We also have Skara that's here competing, so it's very cool to be able to see something like that and also get a chance to hear from him.
My goodness, I mean, you
أنا
look at
مثل
this
بطولة
picture
العالم.
right now.
Hey everyone, we're here on station 15.
الكل بيلعب وهي
Game just
سكارا.
finished, Skara second
هذا كان
place.
بفنتي.
What was going through your mind in this game?
Really lucky.
تلطيش من عندهم مو من عنا.
Unbelievably lucky. I've never been this. My opener was disgusting. I think if you looked, I got 3 Samiras on at 1-2, and I've never had that before in my life. Like any opener in any game, I played 200 games instead so far. So I'm just like, okay, well, I guarantee top 4, and if I play it well, I knew I was going to be first or second. So I placed second. I props out to the person who placed first. I don't know if you've seen them around, but they're this site group named with Lab in their name, and they all have lab coats. I met them right before this. They have a sign.
هذا لاعب محترف في ليج اوف ليجندز كان.
I really look so cool. Thanks so much, Skara. And
بيلعب ميد لين لفريق فناتيك.
Really cool to hear that he actually went top 2 as well. You know,
بعدين ترك
we
ليج اوف
have that
ليجندز
ability to
صار
advance. I know
بس
he's been playing
منوع.
TFT for a long time. I don't think he's a challenger player, but he's always masters and at least pretty high up there. So it's fun to see him. You know, I watched him in the LCS for so many years. He's a really beloved streamer, and to see him competing here and doing well is great.
You know, people talk about Skara. I've heard him being given the nickname the Godfather, right? But I actually feel like in so many ways, Skara is a part of the origin story for so many people in TFT because he was the one that really did bring it to the forefront, show people that this is a game of variance, but the skill in it does so much to show how you can find an edge.
من عندهم
I feel
عندهم
like
مو
he's
من عنا.
continually got better and better, and playing with DFG, he's been in the in-house lobbies with some very, very good players. I know he's also prepped with quite a few other players in the room. I know he was prepping a little bit with Saber and Silver Fuse and Sunset. He's definitely been putting in the work.
هذا اللي تحت على اليمين هو بفريق كان من زمان CLG بعدين نقل على آخر شيء اللي راح على ليكويد. هذا كان شو كان أحسن جنجلر أمريكي على سيرفر NA رانك 1 والفرق رانك 1 لما كان بيعزوا سيزن 3 وهم ترك ليج اوف ليجند هلا صار محترف تي اف تي بس صار له سنتين او سنه ونص.
The MF, the Nico was one of those. This time around, though, I think it's a little bit different. I'm not sure if those lines are going to be as high as they once were.
هلا مباراتهم الثانية.
I'm always really happy if I get a hard seal 3.
عندهم 3 مباريات بعدين بيتقلع منهم.
I think there's a lot of different lines you can play with.
لهدول اللعيبة.
Makes it really easy to hit that 3 hard seal right
حسب
off the
النقاط.
bat. An edge lord.
هذا الناس كلها اللي مشاركين كليا الناس البني ادمين الموجودين اليوم هنيك هن 512 بني ادم. بكره بده يكون نصهم عم بيلعب 256. بعد بكره بده يصيروا 8. كم الجائزة ما بعرف بس يمكن مليون.
3-1-4 into like double set. Yes, you wouldn't have to do it, but it's still, you know, definitely
موزعة بقى يقول لك مجموع جوائز قدرها مليون أو شيء. الأول بياخذ له شيء 150,000.
I think we saw one where someone forced it 1/8.
Yeah, they definitely didn't go
الثاني 103 الثالث 50 الرابع 25 20 15 10 5 وكل التوب 128 ياخذوا 1000 على الماشي.
The whole 2-3 cost here is kind of interesting. I actually feel like a lot of times you'll find players tend to sell that 3 cost in order to get a little bit more econ. Lots of prismatic augments in here.
إذا هذا الجيم نار وشرار بدايته بريزماتيك. هياخذ بدي اعرف اللي فوق بالنص شو هياخذ واللي على اليسار هو الامباكت. ما أخذها لليسار. ركزوا على الشاشة اللي على اليسار. ما أخذها. ما حدا أخذها؟ ما حدا أخذها.
This is a much more consistent, stable augment than Necropactus.
Especially when you're looking for those top 4s, right?
هي اسمها هدية عيد الميلاد.
You can see him in the player cam too. He's smiling. I don't know if he's a little confused on how to play this board. He's got his headliner unit on the bench right now, but sometimes that's the nature of birthday present. When you're kind of throwing a wrench in your plans when you get an upgraded unit that does not always just fit your board.
I mean, it's 2-star Evelyn and then also having a headliner on the bench. And it feels like with birthday presents, you usually want to win streak, right? You're getting these upgraded units, and so definitely feels like a tough start here. Hunter's not really figuring out exactly how to piece together that board.
I also feel like when you're playing birthday present, it's so important to actually stay really healthy and to be able to push levels as fast as you can, right? To try, because the power of that is really in the late game, right? Like you get to 8, you get to 9, you get to 10.
الجيم الماضي
reach those high
كان عم بيلعب على الحظ.
Then all of a sudden it can be completely game changing.
هلا هذا لعب على
المضمون. Get a lot of these 2-star units to kind of just springboard you towards that, so you're not having to spend too much gold on rolling at all.
بس أكيد ندم إنه ما كان عارفان يمكن حيجي إيكو كان لازم يحط عليه ايتم.
That's pretty nice. That's pretty nice.
True damage. Freaky Friday.
رجع الأصلاع لا اللي بشجعه اسمه ويت جانجلر وبيرونج بهذا اللوبي. هذول اللي بتوقع لهم أول ثاني. الجيم الماضي توقعت لهم أول ثاني. قام طلع الكوري الأول ويت جانجلر الثالث. أنا بعرفهم للعيبة. طبعا هذول اللعيبة الموجودين ما لهم أول لعيبة في أول منهم لسه. بس هذول اللي بعرف منهم أنا إنه ويت جانجلر وبيرونج هذول لازم والباقي كله لازم يطلع برا.
Yes, it was nerfed, but still,
it's
gonna put out a significant amount of damage on these early stages. Ooh, hard steal.
That's so tempting.
I would be shocked if he's not going to buy that. He's on tiniest Titan, and this would give him 3 hearts.
هياخد hard steal?
Hard steal, actually.
I was about to say the same. I'm with
you. Is he waiting?
He has to buy that.
He's definitely waiting.
There's no way you don't buy that.
he's waiting.
تعالوا نشوف بس حياخد هارد ستيل ولا لا.
For what?
Some people don't see it.
For the Corky too, because that's what did it for our last game.
هارد ستيل 4.
I think it was just.
I mean, I know you're
اللاعب الكوري عنده هارد ستيل يا جماعة الخير.
He was objectively waiting.
يمكن نشوف هلا مفاجآت.
The reason he was waiting is because there's another Hearthstone.
هذا يعني انه هلا بده يخسر حاله 5 جولات 6 جولات يصير الاخير بعدين يرجع يطلع يصير الاول بس على حظه طلع له لاعب ضعيف قام ربح. هي تعتبر نزع له خطته يعني نوعا ما خسروا قلوب. ليش؟ لأنه اللاعب اللي طلع له كمان عم بيلعب هارد ستيل.
He's playing Tiny's Titan, or is Tiny Titan?
Tiniest.
فعليا في 2 هارد ستيل.
Tiniest plus. I know it changes when you based on when you get it. But either way, you know, that with an early heart steal is going to feel so good, especially if you can have close losses. It is such a powerful trait.
The argument I would say though is that if you can, so for instance, you don't pick up the Aphelios headliner there, and you pick up the Aphelios 1 and the headliner because you can sell the 2 units on your board and play 3 heart steal. You get the loss, get pick priority on carousel.
That doesn't get me 5 heart steal.
No, but the pick priority could, and then you slot in the 5 Aphelios after.
All right. I mean, even for me, I think one of the big things with Heartsteel early when you get it on stage 2 is, as you were saying, like you don't need to lose every run.
Yeah.
Like I'm totally fine if I hit it on stage 2 and I win streak stage 2. I'm like, oh, that's great.
It's
I love
completely
that.
fine.
Like that sounds fantastic.
Exactly.
And then you try and find 5 and then lost streak in stage 3.
Exactly. I think it's actually.
أنا برأيي لازم يحطوا لنا الكاميرا على.
If you do hit 5, you can actually do something with it.
تبعات
When you
هارد
hit
ستيل.
5, that is when you get the really big game-changing cash outs. So we'll see how they're going to play it. But
مخرجين بهالألعاب هاي بيجيبوا الضغط.
So far, people are constantly teching it in, trying to greed the most that they can.
Low Kahuna found the Corky too.
The Corky.
The
legendary Corky.
So we already know it's a win out.
That's a win to level 9 for sure.
I mean, Corky is really, really strong. We're joking, obviously, but Corky is a very, very strong headliner. You know, you get that early. It's reliable damage. Can get you through some of these early stages, but as Kennen with the Infinity Force doing work.
8-bit did get that buff, so it's kind of nice to just get that online right away.
شايفين الأول والثاني على اللعبة ليكويد هذا اللي حكينا عنه وجير. شايفينهم؟ وخلص الستيج كله هذا. هذول ممكن يخلصوا اللعبة سابع ثامن. لأنه ما بيلعبوا بيه. بيلعبوا بخوف. وبيصرفوا الجولد اللي معهم.
You know, juxtaposed or not really.
وإذا تقاتلوا هلا ضد بعض كمان العنين. قاتلوا. جيروا ليكويد. يلا واحد منهم حيضل 100 والثاني حيلا.
Big Gem is, in my opinion, one of the best support items.
It's basically Ascension, right?
Yeah, it's Ascension plus you get Econ. It's so good. You get, you know, that extra augment. You get Econ. And then you get something tacked on. But Virtue, I agree. Like, you want that to die. You want it to be in the front. Plus, you want your dummy to be tanky.
That's what I was gonna say.
Late game is like 3k HP that you have to sit in the back line. It's horrible.
Especially in the early stages. Like, I take this augment a lot. I really like this augment. But when I've played this combo before, you have to put it in the back because you do want your big gem proc. You do want to get that gold from it. But it means that you're basically just down a prismatic in a lot of cases, right? Because your entire front line is going to die first. So it is really difficult to actually get value out of it.
The balance will just have to be like in front of your carry. Like it's still backline, but like you hope that you live long enough that it still becomes a tank.
But I feel like with dummies, you always want them to die first.
No, I know you do.
You want this,
it has to put you on it.
Exactly. You want this. You want your abilities to go off. You want to be able to get that mana, get the spells off. But either way, we'll see if it does work out.
How about crash test stuff?
فرجيني شو صار بالكوري.
So actually, it
أبوس
might be a
إيديك.
really good thing for them to get crash test dummy because even though it jumps forward,
يعني
you still get a
الكوري هو اللي هيطلع الأول على اللعبة فحط الكاميرا عليه.
You might still get gem value, especially in the late game when it is like
وينه؟
that 3k HP dummy.
اسم الكوري بيرونج.
Regional diversity in a lobby like this, right? Where you have these SEA players, Gear and Chaos, unsurprisingly on top right now, am I right? But then on top of that, you've got second place at the Runeterra Reforged Championship, Wet Jungler, and then this myriad of different North American players. It's one of the coolest things about this event to see all the talent come
والله اللاعب جير عم يستعمل كاترينا بطريقة مرعبة. بس مستغرب أنا ليش ما حط لها سبارك.
Everybody who's in chat probably has already got the Sumi spam, but if not, it's all the discords, the competitive discords. Everyone's got the Sumi spam.
والله سبارك تعطيها قوية كثير بهالحالة.
Power to little Kahuna So he can actually
Arba
pop
super
off here.
fan.
One of the biggest memers in North American TFT, and we love the guy.
Right, but honestly, Lil Kahuna kind of known for a memer, but he just gives
بيرونج هو عم يخسر حاله يا زلمه.
nine, right? Like had a
بياخد قلوب.
top 16 run. This is not someone who's a joke, right? As much as they may make jokes, they themselves certainly not.
And hear the love for
هي المشكلة الأساسية لما بيرونج يصير الأخير على اللعبة، هل حيقدر بعدين يوقف على رجليه ويرجع يصير الأول ولا لا؟ هي هيك حتصير. تعالوا نشوف الأوجمنت. في شي واحد عنده ريكوم؟
I'm down. Okay, it's
Nope, it's gone. And goodbye.
I was like, I don't think he's down.
there's
There's
one more.
another one.
It's gone.
No, there's one more.
Oh, there's one more.
Middle
Yeah,
right,
right
middle
side.
right.
It's chaos. Does he want chaos?
Come
That's
on,
the question.
one time chaos.
There's also 2 of them are sitting on recombobulator, so they're
doing it.
considering.
Did he do it?
He did?
He did.
Wait, what did he get? What did he
Wait,
get? I
he
see.
did pick it.
It's hard to see. It's very small.
I
He
can't
has an
see. I
allow.
can't see.
He doesn't allow it. The most
Illusion.
electrifying
Thresh
man in
Illusion.
teamfight tactics does it.
Holy cow.
Yeah, so we got Alawi Thresh Illusion on the one board. Also,
استعمل ريكوم. هي الريكوم انك تحول جيشك بشكل عشوائي لليفل اعلى. قام اجا لوشن
So he still has 3 hearts.
ومس فورتشن 3 وعلاوي.
Definitely not what he
وضل
used
عنده
to
3
be,
هارت ستيل. شايفين؟
because I think, you know,
يروح على الحظ هذا
Jazz
الزلمه.
is a lot weaker. And
بالضبط
people don't
ما.
really generally play around rapid fire, so it's like it's certainly not like that big carry that you.
هلا
want to play
خلاص
around. You
اموره
can tank
بتوقع
it,
خلاص
rapid
مشي
fire is
حاله.
fine, but right now he has 1 big shot, 1 rapid fire, so now those traits are unfortunately active for his carries.
I think it's nice right now because you can always take this board, win streak a little bit, and then maybe pivot into something else.
Well, and this one scales very naturally, right? Because you
بيرونج
already have the
حطونا على
allowing,
بيرونج.
insanely broken on stage 3, right? Getting the 2 tentacles, you're just way tankier than everyone else. But then also having the misfortune carry right
Like
now,
Pirong.
you've got really good pieces of the level 9 comp, right? The Thresh that you want to pair with the Yorick, you've got the Alawi that you're going to pair with the Bruiser.
بيرونج هيل.
Already kind of set now.
Yeah, exactly. You can play some of these.
شكله هيل بيرونج.
It's really flexible, it's really modular, and I think that's what was so nice about that recombobulator, why it was so high roll.
And sometimes
طاقته 100
you see
لانه
people
انا
play
متاكد انه هو
recombobulator,
بيلعب
they just
هارد
go,
خسران
right? They
طاقه
dump
كثير.
everything in there and
هيا.
pray they cash out with the perfect build.
هيا ال
Even
30.
MF there to actually be able to have a consistent backline, no matter what your front line ends up with, is a really great call, and honestly does, like you're saying, set him up for the future.
Got Wek Jungler versus Gear in this next fight. But the 8-bit on the other side, so Gear's definitely trying to make sure that that's going to ramp up, but this front line here from Wek Jungler is still holding pretty strong right now. That Corki though.
Oh, that's Kahuna's board, isn't it? The Corki?
It is.
Yeah, okay. So we got Gear in the corner, but yeah, it's little Kahuna playing on
Against
the
Hans.
Corki.
Yeah.
What jungler?
Well, now I'm
definitely lost me.
confused.
No, it's okay.
The cameras weren't corresponding to the players, but yeah, it was Lil Kahuna versus Hans.
Spat,
down
jungler
there.
grabbed it.
اخذ
What does he have?
سبات ويت جنجلر. وهلا
The
حمية
big
اللعبة.
gem. So he has a
He's a
chain.
belt?
هلا
Or
حمية
he has a
اللعبة.
chain. So pentakill is an option?
It's true.
هل حيساويها
Doesn't really
جاز
have the
يا
board
ترى؟
for it.
Yeah, I'm looking at it as like.
He doesn't. He's playing like.
بيرونج لهلا ما عمل ولا
He must
ايتم.
have 5 hearts still
شفتوا
now.
بيرونج؟
And I'm
ثالث
curious to see
على
exactly
اليمين.
how much health he does
فوق
have,
ولا ايتم.
and how he wants to actually play from here. Does
رهيب
he
الكوري.
go for 7 hearts steal? I don't think you do.
حطوا
but I'm
لنا
just
عليه
curious on the
الكاميرا.
transition. So he took the cash out, and we'll have to see where he wants to actually go
ابوس
from here.
ايديكو.
So he's got the super fan front line, some big shots in the back. I mean, it's not bad. I don't know how deep he's going to go, if he's just going to sit. Honestly, it looks pretty stable.
عنده 5 لوز ستريك.
KDA feels really nice here though too.
حطوا عليه الكاميرا يحطوا
Yeah,
حطاتكم
S5
إلهي.
has double Ezreal already as well without having rolled at all. He just hit 7, so we got 2 Ezreals on 6. If you hit an early Ezreal too, you are really stable, especially if you
يعني
get
لو
more
لو
items, but
المخرج
his itemization
بس
is not
بيعرف
great. I mean,
اللعبة
he got
شوي
Elastus for
وقاري
2
عن
frontline
اللعيبة
items,
شوي حتى لو مو
and then
حضرانهم
a spat, right?
هيعرف
Like,
انه
that's
بيرونج هو اللي
it.
حيربح
Didn't have an extra
البطولة
point,
يعني
so
حيتأهل
I'm
اكيد
kinda curious where
للنهائي
he's actually gonna go with this patch,
او
but
لليوم
you can
الثاني
always
يعني
just
اسوأ
slam the
شيء
jazz
فلازم
back, you
يحط
can
عليه
actually pick
الكاميرا
up a cloak
كثير.
and then just, okay, I'm playing 2 jazz, I guess. But it's not the most exciting thing, and it's definitely not that game changing, I feel like, anymore.
It also doesn't feel like the out he was playing for whatsoever here, right? Like that spat feels like, I mean, with the slams here, I guess you can always do
بالغلط
that,
حط
but when
الكاميرا
you
عليه.
Go for it if you have Elastus for slams.
برجع بحط له هاد شكله كان يتابع ليج اوف ليجند فبيحبه لهاد او بيحب الجنجل او فريق ليكويد دافعين له. في واحد سالني كل فريق بيحق له لاعب واحد؟ لا قد ما بده بيمضي عقود مع لاعبين.
I mean, you can play.
معك فلوس فيك تعمل فيك تشتري يعني 50 لاعب
I just feel like last are not very good on her, especially in that case. You need Omni Vamp, you need something to be a little bit tanky to
بس طبعا قبل البطولة ما تبلش مو بنصها تعمل معه نقود.
I know a lot of players when they do slam Last Whisper want to typically opt towards that Ezreal Caitlyn, or even opposed to the edgelord, right? Like a lot of the edgelord boards, while they definitely can utilize Last Whisper very well, would much rather have something like that Even Shroud so that you can immediately get through that front line. So it actually is a little bit more limiting than it might sound, to be honest.
I do kind of want to see like
السؤال الثاني بيرونج شو صار فيه بالهارت ستيل؟ كم هارت ستيل؟ ضل على 3 ولا 5 ولا 7 ولا خلص منه؟ عزز ليكو بيرونج على اليمين واخيرا حطوا لنا الكاميرا عليه حتى نص كاميرا مو كاميرا كامله. المهم 1 2 3 4 5 هارت ستيل عم بيلعب. ما ركب ولا ايتم لهلا غير بلو على اري.
He's going into wolves and he has 6 components on bench, plus he already has the blue buff slam, so he's gonna have like 4, potentially even 5 items to slam. So he is in such a good spot.
He can't even pick them all up.
He can't pick it up.
He can't pick it up.
Scrooge McDuck over there, just holding all his items.
واخيرا بيرونج
He's gotta start slamming items.
شايفين 5 هارت ستيل مثل ما قلت.
It looks like he's got to go through all these items, figure out exactly.
7 خسارات بالتالي.
I would start with front line.
عرفان شو عم
Start with the front line. That one's a little easier, right?
So he already has the blue buff slam, so he's playing around this
هيطلع
party,
ليفل
so I like
8.
the AP items, and then you slam like Warmogs and Brambles. Warmogs, Bramble.
You can do red buff.
Red buff.
ممكن يعمل
but if you're gonna go to 9, then you can obviously have a lot of success with it at 9. But I think red buff's really good. I think Bramble's solid.
Sunfire. وممكن يعمل static shield.
So I think he has a lot of options here, but I don't think you want to lose like too heavy,
كمان
especially if
ممكن.
you're gonna stick on 5 Heartsteel. Like he's staying on Heartsteel. He does have really good augments for it that has allowed him to go deep on this loss streak without getting too low because he is healing from his prismatic. He has the 30 bonus health, obviously from his silver augment as well. So we'll see how long he actually wants to commit to this. But I think for sure after at least one more cash out, he's got to bail out.
Oh, I think he's
وينه في جونج فوق على اليمين.
That's where he's at.
I was gonna say you could make 2
Don't have
tanks
stats?
themselves, but
You can. That is an option. Yeah.
Was illegal.
You are correct. Yeah.
I don't know if that's the correct call, but I just wanted to point that out. We got our third and final augment choice in this game. It's going to be gold to be able to round this out. So very nice power level in this lobby for everyone.
هذا هو الأول على اللعبة.
Gears board does find this Zed headliner. Honestly, so personally, I really do like playing around Zed.
إذا ما غير جنوده حيخسر.
Very flexible.
ما حيضل الأول على
Used
اللعبة.
a ladder to a couple different lines.
الجيش ضد الغيار.
Common for us to see players do their roll down on 8, look to play around the crowd divers or the edgelords, and then they kind of use that to just settle. And then eventually
هو فعليا عم بلش يغير. أول جولة ينزل زد على ما يبدو ولا حط له ايتمات.
No, you don't like that?
I don't think so. That's my read.
But I mean, it is definitely pretty strong for now. He has a good kind of.
زد هيك حالة كثير قوي هلا حاليا. لأنه بهذا التوقيت ما في حلول ضده كثير.
Has 30 gold on a 6 streak, so if he can actually keep this one going, it looks like he's gonna get beaten by the Zed. I think.
تبع سوبر فان مطورة.
Yeah, Zed kind of going crazy. So Sandfish just does drop around, but again, he's in such a good spot at this point. It does feel similar to what he was in last game, where he almost ended up going 7th, but it was like really close.
بيجونج هلا وصل بيرونج هلا وصل ل 50 طاقة.
recover it and get into a top 4. So again, it feels like he's in a really good spot. We'll have to see where he goes from there.
I think that's part of the skill expression you see in these players like Setsuko and say Vicious who are popularizing this fast 9, right? Because to them, there's this old adage in TFT like 1 HP is infinite HP. So that's really all you need to win a game. 2 HP, it may be very scary for the majority of players, but when you are comfortable in that fast 9 to build a board with
أنا اللي ما فهمته هذا اللاعب شو بده يساوي بالسبجولة. أنا كنت أتوقع إنه حيساويها جاهز بس ما سواها.
It's still pretty strong.
I still think it's a pretty good augment because I think the big shots are, well, not all the big shots, but Ezreal is very good, and I think that Jhin does have very high caps. And this can make that
Kaisa is also a unit.
Yeah, Kaisa is also a unit that you can play on your board.
Yeah, you get the
no quirky too.
So early as well. Feels nice.
You have to imagine what jungler was feeling pretty good about having this threat 2 in the front line. It's going to buy enough time, and then it turns out front line means nothing when you're fighting a Lux.
Yeah, and we haven't seen that board really at all. So that's already a 3-star Lux. That's not a line that I've seen people play at all yet in this tournament. It is something that you'll see quite a bit on ladder. Obviously, it does have good backline access, but again, it is one of those kind of more risky styles. Going heavy in medium, going heavy into that Lux. It has great backline access, but can you actually get further with that? And we just saw a 3-star MF as well on Chaos's board, so a lot more of these kind of 3-star 3 costs in this game.
اللي معه سبيجولا إذا بياخذ سبيجولا ثانية ممتاز، بس مين هو نسيت؟
No way!
He knew
ما
what
لحق.
these people doing. No one's taking his spat.
Oh my
It's tough though. It's like, if you can't use the
السؤال ويت جانجلر هو اللي معه سبيجولا؟
to deny it, right? It's tough. It depends on your position in the game.
I completely agree.
And how the earlier games.
There are enough like relatively flexible stats that you can put it together because like 3
هو
penalties good splash trait.
صار معه
You don't have to
اثنين
play that
ثاني.
much and to play around that. There's the jazz that you talked about earlier. There's a lot of ways to kind of
فتح
utilize
ثاني
it.
جديدة.
I agree. You can't tank your game. Right? If you can't use it, then
If
you
it
gotta
was last
stay away.
patch, I super agree with you because then you just put Jazz in,
Yeah, of
right,
course.
in
Jazz
literally
makes it a
every
lot
single
easier,
comp.
yeah.
But now, I don't know. It's harder. I feel like there's a lot more lines that you're not going to get huge value from it. And it's like, okay, if you're going to dig for a pentakill, try to smash in pentakill, but you don't have a pentakill carry, then you're not really getting anything from that. If it's just going to be a Yorick
it
or
would
whatever.
just be Yorick.
Exactly. But then you have to get 9. You have to hit that. You have to find the chain.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we only have one more component phase, right? So I think it gets pretty risky to take a spat this late unless you have something that you already kind of have pre-planned to do it.
And with Perong having so many components from playing around the Heartsteel, spat he can make
do
something. He'll do something with it. He has every choice in the world to utilize. He can make it work.
Oh my
والله
God,
مشتغل
he just got 5 gold from his big gem.
And that's the thing, like, it does suck like the prismatic version instead of just like the gold version where it's like, okay, I'm not losing as much by backlining. Someone else did hit it, I think we saw. And I mean,
هلا بقى لازم يحطوا لنا على بيرون الكوري.
And especially, I do think it actually counts.
لم شكله شفته طلع عنده جولد كثير.
It seems to count all
might,
these
because
extra
that
things.
feels like a lot of gold.
Because 5 gold there was crazy. So.
يا إلهي.
We took a look at Chaos's board for a second. I know we're on Hunters right now, but Chaos has done a really good job actually of stabilizing while
بيعمل
also being able to
ريفريرولات.
maintain Heartsteel deep into the game. This is one of those places where if he actually is looking to aim to go 9, he can afford a few losses still.
Okay. For a second there, I was like, is he really going to put the Lux that far forward? I was like, I don't know if it's worth it for the attack speed, but let's see. We do have a bit of a disco board here. Karthus 2 and that headliner TF as well. So pretty strong board going up against Gear.
تقريبا الكل عم بيلعبوا صاروا هلا سيف.
And oh, there's the big counter here. Zed into
كل عم يحاول يسيف طاقة.
will sometimes target the shadows.
في كثير صرفوا جولداتهم ها.
Zed hard counters the unit and is really impossible.
بس هذا اللاعب شو دوتس. أنا أتوقع إنه ما عاد يقدر يجيب أكثر من توب 6 إذا ما كان 8. هذا السابع ثامن.
We have a couple players down
يوريك.
to 20 HP. Braun getting pretty low, but he's sitting on
نفس
65
الشيهات
gold, so
كمان.
a much different position than those below him. Now at 74 gold, as I think we're going to see him try to recraft this board.
هذا وضعه هني.
Wet jungler in a really
Wet
nice
jungler.
position here actually. He's got to feel good.
ما
His
بده شيء غير إنه
headliner
بس
as
يلفل
real,
شغلات اللي
especially
عنده
with the
إياها.
super fan still in, is always going to be dealing
Alawi's at 8.
a lot of
كثير عنده
damage.
ليفل واحد.
I remember he took 1 Alawi off of that carousel, which means when he does go 9, which I'm assuming is going to be 5-2, he's got a very good chance of 2-starring this Alawi right off the bat.
You got the first one from the Recon Bob, right? And then another one off of...
that's Chaos.
That's Chaos. So I guess he just picked up one naturally and then got the other one off the carousel. But yeah,
بيرونج وأخيرا الكاميرا عليه.
stabilize at 9 really well.
طلع ليفل 9 مثل ما قلت لكم. صرف كل شيء هلا
He's
خلاص.
playing around this Ari, so actually he's not. I mean,
He's
5
considering
costs are a
the
little
thresh.
harder to look around. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I
like this thresh.
Yeah, I think it's worth it.
4
Thresh
Guardian.
is really strong if you do get that level 2.
عم بيخلط ايتمات وعم يساوي كثير شغلات بنفس الوقت.
You can get multiple rounds of the hooks, and especially when people are really clumped, especially with some of these kind of like awkward
بس
positions.
ما نحظ إنه ما لفلت
you
عنده
can
آري.
sometimes hook 4 or 5 units or whatever, and really get them all hit, where they're pretty teamed up.
This angle is not good
No,
for
it is
Charazzi. Big hit. There is the gunblade. Maybe he can get enough healing. Nah, it's gone.
Karthus killing a lot, but not able to take out that Lux. Definitely doesn't have the single target.
Yeah, Lux isn't hitting Karthus though until now.
طبعا ممكن.
It's hard for Karthus to win this.
ممكن.
Yeah, Lux will get there.
It doesn't look like it's gonna happen.
7 مو؟
Yeah, that's gonna be it for Chow.Zez or Chow.Z. It's gonna be out in 8. You
ثامن.
see the disappointment on his face and the player camp.
طلع واحد ليكو
Definitely
بنفخ.
a tough spot
كسر
to be
الجهاز.
in. But the player's moving forward here.
Oh,
There's
Carol
now he's
Downs.
in a shop. Okay, that's a pretty good shop there for St. Vicious. He's doing a heavy roll down here, looking for a new headliner. Does hit a Sona. We'll see what he wants to pick up. You know, looking for
الهيرو تبعه مدور على واحد غيره.
headliners, but he hasn't been able to find them, and now he's down to 4 gold. So he's going to be potentially stuck with that one.
Yeah, I was curious if he was willing to pick up any of those 4-cost headliners. Obviously, you have a 10% chance of hitting the 5-cost, but most of the time you're going to roll, you're not actually going to find the 5-cost headliner.
Didn't this happen to him last game?
Somewhat similar.
Like
I mean, he ended up picking up the Jin as the headliner, but his front line was really bad in that game. I feel like he's in a better spot this time because his front line is way more stable, and he actually has some decent.
والله
backline
كيتلين عم
carries.
تشتغل
Yes, he doesn't
كأنه عند
actually have
هذا
that big
اللاعب.
headliner, but the Senna is still reasonable. This Caitlyn is still going to be doing some work, so hopefully the losses aren't going to be too bad for him.
You know what I'm going to talk about. Chaos on the other side is 50 gold. He used a recombobulator to build a really strong board, and I want to call out, I love that he opted to play around the MF. We see so often people kind of YOLO their boards when they recombobulator, and then they can't pick up the pieces. Keeping the solidarity of misfortune on that and then playing around it while he allowed the front line to be recombobbed was a really cool play. Love to see that out of Chaos.
Right now,
بس كمان ما نحظ
that late game specialist has gone up to 9, able to
على
spend
ليفل
that
9
money,
بشي.
finds the headliner Kiana. This is one of the biggest headliners to find. Has the highest cap because she's going to permanently stack that attack damage. And Bloodthirster's a pretty solid item to be putting in.
Yeah, the rest of his board though is pretty bad. It's mostly all 1-stars, right? You know, he does have 1-star Lucian, 1-star Senna, 1-star Bard, 1-star Thresh, you know, 1-star Jin. So the rest of his board looking really weak. Yeah, he has a 2-star Echo, and then I think it was like a Cannon or something in there. But it's tough, right? You don't buy that time that your Kiana needs to get something done. And this is a position we've seen a lot of players in on this patch. I feel like when they get to 9, it's not as easy to
في رونج الأخير على اللعبة، ولكن هذا هو الوقت اللي بيرجع فيه على اللعبة.
One of the things that's interesting about this Kiana
بس ناقصه واحد سبيل ويفر.
you see the strength of Kiana in buffing up the rest of your team. Cass, I know you're very passionate about this. Buffing up that front line, allowing the rest of your units to do damage. When you're just playing 6 true damage and just focusing on the Kiana, you're kind of not getting that value anymore.
Well, and when they're all 1-stars, you're just buffing up garbage, right? Like it's a force multiplier, but it's
So Kiana, in my eyes, is a support unit. She's not actually a carry. So if you end up on a board like this, exactly what's a bunch of garbage, she's not going to do anything. It's like Sona. You throw Sona on that same board, what is she doing?
Yeah.
They're all just going to die. She's not actually going to do anything. So I think I like to think about her the same way.
In the background while you all die.
Exactly. Yes. It's just like Corky, just vibing in the ship.
All right, some roll downs happening right now.
Wedge Jungler has a lot of gold.
Ooh. Yeah. Wedge Jungler spot's really great. I mean, getting that fawn early is so big. Having the Tactician's Crown, having 10 units on.
Ooh,
yeah, that was such
2
a
Canes.
free
Wow, I'm
option.
surprised he passed double cane.
Because he's even playing around the Ezreal, right?
Yeah, he's still playing Heartsteel. Yeah, exactly. He has a set and the Ezreal on board, so I'm really surprised he passed the double cane there.
He might have decided that, like, at least for this is his board. He doesn't actually want to change anything. He wants to upgrade. But I'm curious because there are still some like
drop KDA. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's like,
he could just drop it.
Who cares about some of these KDA units? I feel like at this point, you can drop out. Like if you hit a Kane too, it's like there's no way I think you want to play the 4 big shot over having a Kane 2.
I agree.
Right?
I agree.
I think that it's like one of those things where sometimes it's that trap where you can get caught up in chasing the traits instead of the powerful units. Like the traits are just multipliers on your units, right?
Little Kahuna couldn't stabilize on that Kiana, right? As you said, rest of the board, there wasn't much there. Get some Sumi spam for Little Kahuna, pour one out. There we go, this goes to 7 in this game.
Players from Southeast Asia still maintaining their position on top, and it's actually quite a health gap you see between Gear, Chaos, St. Vicious, and then Wet, Jungler, and Prong really looking to hold on and secure a top 4.
And Prong won in the last game, right? So he got first in the last game.
وقاطن الرابع والخامس 17 19 بينما الأول ثاني ثالث من ال70 لل 50.
He really is just trying to stay as stable as he can, you know, utilizing this Thresh. Has double mana items on the Thresh, so you're basically hooking, you know, right as soon as that round starts. We'll see if we can actually get back onto that MF.
Ooh, doesn't hit,
not quite.
That's a tricky part.
شوف في رونج بيربح
very
الجولة.
fickle. Sometimes you don't quite land on that unit.
Both units beside it, he hooked. That sucks.
Pretty unfortunate.
This Ari is one thing I do want to talk about. She does pretty well into a lot of the meta, right? We're seeing a lot of these Canes, we're seeing Zeds around, we're seeing Kianas, and even melee carries. Ari absolutely dumpsters them.
Oh, Yorick 2 and Witch Jungler.
So it's all a positioning game.
Witch Jungler
Ari.
يمكن مركز أول
The
ها؟
4 cost, she can cap out higher than a lot of those 5 cost boards. If it's the right 5 cost board that she's playing up against, right? She's not going to do as well into the Jins or Sonas or the backline ones. The frontline ones, she destroys them.
I mean, it's tough, right? Because you talk about how a champion like Kane can get burst down, but at the same time, you want to be playing same side as the Ahri because you want your Kane to get backline to be able to get access to that Ahri, right? So you have to have good enough frontline, and kind of almost in a lot of the situations, it feels like play your Kane 1 hex back and have that frontline by the time that hopefully your Kane can get through and get onto the Ahri and take it out.
Roll down here from Gear.
Oh,
finds the Kiana true damage. That's got to
What?
And that's 4 true damage.
Oh yeah.
So that's really, really nice because he already had a couple of them in there.
And he also has a
لا
to go with this. It's still 1
Hero.
star, but well, okay, not anymore. The Kali is going to be massive, but having the Ziggs and the Sona in the backline and then starting to build front line, this is a massive point.
This is huge. You had the hyper pop in there too from the Lulu.
I feel like you gotta drop
but it was so
Superfan,
easy
no?
to like take
I
it
think
out.
Superfan should be out. Yeah.
He has 2 Yorks on his bench. He has some strong units on his bench. I don't think Superfan is worth it at this point. Yeah, you do get 1 item on your Kiana. That's going to be nice, but I just don't know if it's worthwhile at this point.
تعال نشوف مين بيربح في رونج ولا ويت جانجلر. هذول نهاوة 2.
The Alawi has the Ahri stuck for a while. That's kind of best case.
نهاوة
But
2 هذول.
now that it's gone, the Ahri's just blowing everything up. It's not enough though. Jin,
كويس هو اللي
now he's
بيربح.
been upgraded Jin 2 with the full bench empty. He's got the blue buff. It's not an insane amount of damage, but it's really good supportive damage on top of the
And with the big gem, right? He procs the Ascension. It bought
Allah.
enough time that it is going to start doing some serious damage.
مو شايف شيء.
And it's 4 big shot as well, right? That's the 4
اللي
big shot
شايف
board.
I think
يخبرني.
he dropped it, right?
Wait, did he drop 4 big
I'm
shot?
not certain.
اللي حامل مكبر إلي.
But Ascension is the best thing. It's like one of the best Jin augments, and the fact that you get it in an item and you don't
It's
actually
either
have to
the
pick
best
Ascension.
or you just die before procs and you're just
exactly. But
turns
We
out
don't talk about that.
my Lilia 1, Kennen 1 front line didn't buy the time I needed.
Shocking.
Wild how that works.
Look at those Sona items, by the way, and a Sona pair in shop. If he can actually hit a Sona,
بيشتغل
that'd
لوشن.
be crazy.
yeah, Saint can eliminate Barong here, but the
زمان ماني شايف لوشن
kind of
شغال.
tough time punching through. Second cast a lot better because you've already done the shred on the first cast, but Ari gets the target. It's not enough though. Saint's gonna stay, get the kill off there.
لوشن بيعمل شغل عالي
First
جدا.
spin still works out pretty well though.
And Saint does lock the shop, so he wants that Sona pair. I was wondering if he was going to sell I think it was a set pair, so he could have sold one of the sets and maybe just not lock, but he does elect to go for the lock. And yeah, still waiting to see, like, is Superfan going to get taken out? You know, digging for the Ziggs too, digging for that Yorick too, trying to see if he can cap out the support higher, and now electing to get rid of the Ziggs. I think that's the right choice, because at this point, honestly, who cares about the Ziggs too if it has no items? Like, if you're not going to swap out of the Ahri, then I don't think it really matters, so isn't going to actually end up upgrading his board whatsoever. But Superfan this late just feels so low value, because the individual units are so weak.
Now Chaos is running this 4 big shot with the Misfortune 3, still on Alawi 1 though.
On the Kane, double healing though. That's the big thing that we've been seeing. But you got the Lucian just pumping away, getting all that shred, and actually just takes it out. So it's up to this MF3 to try and do more. But this Lucian's actually surprising me a lot. I have not liked this as a headliner. I've not liked playing carry Lucian. I think he's again a more supportive unit with the shred, but yeah, just get taken out.
2 first place. Is that what you said?
He's setting the stage, everybody. He wants you to believe in the rest of these people.
There's not 2 more games left.
All right, I misread the script. It's fine. It's
There was a typo in there, obviously.
ما لعبة تي اف تي ما فيها نظام
It's
السبكتيت.
round 2 that I'm thinking of. That's when he's going 1-1-1. This whole thing is a ploy.
It's all the long con.
Well, we got our top 3 locked in for the second game. So it's going to be Wet Jungler, Gear, and Vicious that are going to have an opportunity to walk away with this first place. And These boards are starting to look mighty strong.
وما بعرف ليش الشركة ما لها فاتحة هذا النمط تبع السبكتيت.
I think, I mean, that's the one I'm looking at. That's the potential to continue to cap
أكيد
out
في
the
سبب.
highest, but you're still missing some pieces, right? Still playing that Ari alongside this Sona 1 with no items. I guess, is that against it? Yeah, that will be able to help out the Sona a bit.
Satan has been so rich and hasn't actually been able to two-star a lot of his stuff, so I feel like he's been a little bit unlucky with it. Hasn't really been able to pick up many of these Sonas, but his board also has quite a lot of room to grow, because with those items on Sona, if you hit Sona 2, that is a massive spike.
Absolutely, yeah.
ما في اهتمام؟ لا ما بظن لها علاقة بالاهتمام لأنه هي كبسة زر. هن ما بدهم. ما بتوقع شغلة صعبة إنك تدخل سبكتيت.
That is crazy. That's 5
بس الشركة ما بدها يكون في ميزة السبكتيت.
So much damage coming out too.
Feels like Gear's been pretty unhappy with the general state of the board and has been
هيعمل ضغط على السيرفر ما بظن.
but at this point actually looks very strong. Feels like it's finally
انك ما عم تعمل معلومات، يعني لما عم تعمل سبكتيت انت ما عم تضغط على السيرفر، انك بتتفرج عليه. ما عم ترفع عليه داتا، بس عم تشوف الداتا الموجودة فيه. ما فيها ستريم سنايب تي اف تي. انت وباللعبة فيك تكبس الماوس على اي واحد باللعبة وتشوف شو معه. كل شيء عند معه اياه انت فيك تشوفه. ما في شيء سري يعني.
Maybe worth it. Like there's a lot of boards that don't actually cap out with Superfan in the end game, but having that Kiana last for so long might actually be worth it.
I mean, the big thing though is like you want Alawi, but she was out.
حتى البطل اللي بيكون عم بيلعب في ابطال كثير في منهم بيعملوا ستريمات. بنهائي كأس العالم بيفتح ستريم. بيلعب على كأس العالم يعني. بس بيسكر الشات وما بيحكي مع المشاهدين. بس بتلاقي فاتح ستريم. فما في شيء يتخبى.
And he's on Zig's pair as well.
That might be.
He's on Zig's pair, he's on Yorick pair, he's on Bard pair, he's on Set pair. Does he even have an MF in? I think, yeah, he's on MF pair as well. So he actually has 5 pairs, I think. These gloves I always feel like is a really nice hit this late, especially if you can get. But oh, actually, he has items on like everything.
He has no room because he's got bulk, so he's like spreading it all out.
Yeah, no, which is definitely not a misplay by any means, but it always feels so nice if you can get like a 2-star 5 cost and just slam with these gloves on a Yorick or something late game. It always feels like incredible value. There's a 2-star Ziggs in shop for Saint, and he's got to decide: is it worth me selling the Yorick to actually hit this right now? And I would say no, because he has an extra life. Yeah, so I think you just wait.
It's hard to tell sometimes. I think it depends on whether you think your opponent can spike in the time it takes you to lock that shot, right? This is stage 7, so much damage can be dealt. But even within stage 7, 34 HP.
أول مرة أشوف لوشن عليه 2 ترينيتي فورس.
Can you actually win without the Yorick 2? And if your read is you can't win with the Yorick 2, and I think that's correct, then you should never be selling it anyway for a spike on this round, right? So like.
بس أنا بلوشن شو ما كان عليه ما بحسه يونت.
Secured himself advancing as long as nothing catastrophic happens.
مثلا أعطيه ايتمات
get a Yorick in there, and he has a chance to actually get first place. Otherwise, we're going to see Gear clean it up.
Well, the thing is, as more rounds go, I mean, Gear's Kiana is just getting stronger, right? This is just infinite scaling AD, and she scales so much. You saw in that fight, she created like 8 items. So like, you know, that's
بس لا بقى
that's a lot.
That's kind of a lot of damage that she's now
mid-round like 600 stack or steal cash out.
بس أنا بظن الأقوى هو اللي عنده سونا.
chase this down and beat it when you're playing against that Kiana.
I will say because it is the last fight,
فرجوا على
there's actually
سونا.
no way to hit both the Yorick and the Ziggs. You kind of have to choose, right? Because you're not going to have enough
ركزوا يعني فوكس على سونا.
So we have to hope that the Ziggs is able to tap out his board high enough. It does not really look like it, unfortunately. No, too much. This Kiana headliner is so strong, able to buff up so much. Ultimately, here, take the game.
Sona win
the really good game. Also, was able to get all these luxury units in there, had all the 2-star 5 costs in to support. And it wasn't just, we've seen a lot of Kiana's hit, but they don't have the supporting units. He had a 2-star Sona, 2-star Ari, 2-star Yorick, 2-star Kane. Like he had everything in there that you would want to be able to buy the time to make the most of all the
هلا هدول بقيان لهم جيم واحد
really ramp up that damage. So another really
بعد
well
هذا
played
الجيم
game
حيتقلع
here.
منه
Pretty
الناس
close down to
على
the end.
بلاده.
Zane, you had some risky moments in the first one. This second game I felt like was a lot more kind of smooth and in control. And as a result, it's been a great spot for this group to advance.
Oh, it was a really great game to watch, and especially looking at both of the SEA players, I feel like that second augment that they took was really important as well, just to make sure that they had enough health to be able to make that transition to the mid game and to be able to get to the late game without having taken too much damage. So very well played, and also just a great game coming out from St. Vicious as well.
Yeah, I think Saint, I mean, I was saying it earlier, right? This is someone that I felt was in really good form coming into this event. I actually picked him for my fantasy team. I went over to the co-stream.
When did you pick him?
I picked
احلى شيء الطاوله تبع هذا هي الفي اي بي. هذا الحزام شفتوه؟ حزام البطوله
like second or third pick, yeah.
عاملينه على شكل حزام شكل المصارعه.
That's high praise.
Oh my goodness, I love you. That's fantastic. I love this pick. He's a great third pick. Listen,
I like how you were really doubting until you heard who he picked before.
no inspired confidence.
Oh, Saint third. Oh, fucking nappies. Okay.
Saint is one of those players, he's been in the scene for so long, right? He's just loved TFT, but it actually has taken him quite a while to find success. And I feel like it's so fitting that going into set 10, seeing him here on the main stage in LAN, it's the perfect setting for someone like St. Vicious to actually find an edge on the competition.
I've seen some of these highlights. Another pretty close game. I mean, it's been really interesting watching kind of the development so far. It does feel like what we've somewhat settled on is that almost everyone, unless you're in a really good position, has to stop at 8, has to try to stabilize their board, get some forecasts in, and use that to kind of springboard yourself to 9. Where we're seeing almost always the boards that are actually getting that first place finish are those fully capped level 9 boards with all the 5 costs. But you can't just kind of skip those steps in the middle that you used to be able to in the previous patch.
I think that's the important distinction, right? Because people talk a lot about
بس على الحالة خلاص بين مين بده يتأهل. رح يتأهلوا من هذا اللوبي.
The difference that we're seeing in this patch though is that it's important to play level 8.
with jungler.
You can see how flexible these boards are though.
وهذا
It's not really just one strategy that helps to get you to that end game. You have so many different traits that you can tech in.
بس بايا ما تتأهل وصعب كثير.
Look for that loss streak.
لأنه بالجيم الأول والجيم الثاني نفسهم هدول طلعوا توب 4 أو توب 5.
But it just in so many different ways.
Yeah, and level 9 is super modular. We've actually seen Saint having to flex this the most because he's not hitting the best headliners. So we see him play Jin and then we see him
يعني
play
الوحيد اللي عنده أمل اللي هو اسمه كيجاوس.
But he found the spot for it and he recognized that hey, I'm not hitting the things I want. How can I craft a board that's still
هذا الوحيد عنده أمل.
I think in that way you have to give him a lot of credit for these high finishes, despite the fact that he got 9, he got there with a lot of gold in both games, and he didn't actually get that kind of hit that you want, right? He didn't have that dream scenario of hitting the instant Kiana chosen or hitting that instant Alawi chosen or York or whatever, right? But he has been able to still make it work.
I love that you brought up the level 9 board being modular. One of the things that we're seeing less this patch is the rise of Jazz. You talked about it during the game, but I don't remember exactly when St. Vicious was able to secure that Jazz path, but being able to play for Jazz on 9, obviously it's not going to be as strong as it was last patch, but when you're talking about modular gameplay and building compositions that have different strengths, it's such an important way to play the game.
And I think one of the really underrated things about Jazz is people focus so much, I think, on the damage, but forget about all the HP that you're getting, right? Which really does beef up your front lines, because we've seen so many people with strong carries not be able to build the kind of front lines that they need. And I think that is one of the really tough things, especially when you're trying to push past 8, not spend too much gold, and then go 9. If you don't already have 4-cost frontliners that are 2-starred, then all of a sudden you're rolling heavy for a 5-cost headliner that costs 15 gold. That's not even counting all the rolls it's going to take to get there. Then all of a sudden, even if they hit their headliner, they're broke. They can't actually afford the gold it would cost to get anything reasonable in the front line.
Well, and it's extra important because when you look at the really good headliner carries at 5 cost, Sona needs to have a board that stays alive so you can actually cast and get value out of the attack speed. Jin, to a lesser degree, but also needs that front line to stay alive to actually hit the scenario where he is a very good unit. Kiana, I've said it multiple times, she's a support unit. She's not the main carry, right? She's trying to spread out items across your whole team, make them strong. You need time to do that. All of these late games, Ziggs infinitely scales, right? Like, that is the big thing with all these 5 classes. You need time to get there.
it's already been such an intense day of competition, and we are seeing such a huge development as we look across these first few games that we've had, but we still have more to come. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we've got the third and final game of this second heat to see who's making our top 256.
مين اللي حيتأهل ل 256 مركز ال 256؟ هذا شو اسمه؟ تيكيز منيح. في كيمي الياباني موجود هون خسران. لاعب الكيمي الياباني قوي، مو قوي فظيع يعني بس هيك اللوبيات، لوبي 10 لوبي 11 تتسوكو الرابع، لوبي 12 إيميلي وانغ الخامسة، هاي تشالنجر. هذول كله أبو كلب. لوبي 13 لوبي 14 هم لوبي 15 أبو كلب. لوبي 16 بلا طعمة. لوبي 17 بلا طعمة. اسماء جديدة كلها. كيريجي قوي كثير كوري. لوبي 18. شاي أمريكي قوي كثير طالع السادس.
I'm really happy to play against the Chinese players.
هذا تيكيز. هلا اللي قلت لكم اسمه إذا ما سمعتوني قلت تيكيز.
To play against them, but even the NA players that I'm a huge fan, like Soju, it's like a person that I used to watch a lot, so it was a really pleasure to me. And
هذا
some
مرشح.
comps to be strong at this tournament. I
بس
think
ما بتوقع يطلع
Yone and
الأول على
Zed
العالم
can be
يعني
the
على
most
البطولة كلها.
impressive comps
مرشح.
right now.
يوصل لآخر 8 ممكن.
Hello everybody and welcome back. We are well on our way through day number 1 of our competition here at the TFT Vegas Open, but I'm very excited to be welcoming in a special guest to our broadcast. We got Asa. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. I played in the first heat and I made it to the day 1 part 2, so I'm pretty happy.
هذا لاعب
Thank you
قوي
for
كان
taking some of
كثير.
your break time to come join us on the desk. How has your experience been so far playing?
Oh, it's been awesome. Like the pre-party yesterday and just seeing everyone from all over the world here is just really cool.
It's been awesome to be able to see not only you compete, but like how about just being in the same room as some of the people that like you've competed with online?
Yeah, it's cool to compete in person and just like a lot of the NA players were all friends, and then meeting some of the players from overseas is also great. Like when I was walking here, I met someone from Czech Republic, and it's just cool that they're flying all the way out here. I probably wouldn't go if there's a tournament in Europe, but
but they get to come see you.
I know we talked a little before the event. You talked about how
العالم جاي من آخر
sometimes
الدنيا
get you. Now that
لهالبطولة.
you've been in the
سافرين
venue, you
سفرات
had your
بعيدة
set of
كتير.
games. How do you feel you're actually, switching over to the LAN environment?
I'm still definitely a little nervous, but hopefully I'll be able to perform in my next games.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of different meta across like the stage games as I've been walking around. I was wondering, were you seeing anything interesting in the games that you played that was maybe something you didn't expect, or even if it was what you expected, just kind of the meta that you saw in your round?
I think I talked to a lot of different people, and I think a lot of the lobbies were playing very differently. My lobby had a lot of people like going fast 9, but I heard some of the other lobbies were a lot more aggressive.
That's really interesting to see because I feel like in this lobby in particular, we've seen a lot of fast 9. Like that feels like that has to be the tempo that you need to go for. Just make sure that you're trying to play to some of those stronger boards and make sure you can.
المشكلة إنه خلاص انحسمت.
But we'll have to see if that stays. And don't release too much of your tech.
صار عندهم
because I know
دبل
you
نقاط.
play a little bit later. But
يعني
yeah,
هلا
I'm
إذا
pumped to see
ويت
what's gonna
جانجلر
happen in
بيطلع
this
الثامن
next
بيتأهل.
game. It's been tough competition so far.
Yeah, I mean, the
مثلاً.
big thing that's impressed me out of this group so far has actually just been SEA. The two SEA players, Chaos and Perong, have been absolutely popping off in this lobby, and it's been completely, a shock that they've, had such a good performance in what was a very stacked lobby with Wet Jungler and St. Vicious.
Yeah, going
هذا
into
إذا
game
بيطلع
2, this is the
السادس
inflection point, right?
بيتأهل
Because
يعني
you've got
بس
one
سابع
game
ثامن
left to
يمكن ما
make your
بيتأهل.
way into the top top 56, correct? I think somewhere around there. So for all these players that are sitting on the bubble, usually we kind of see this culminate throughout the day, and 5 games in, we'll see how it all plays out. But this is a really important moment for so many of those players that are going to be sitting on the bubble with one chance left.
Yeah, I think Game 3 has a really interesting dynamic because there's certain players who have to play for like exactly first or second, and then it really changes the lobby tempo.
And it's weird because it's so isolated because we usually do get a chance to have more games in order to actually get to that point where, oh gosh, like 2 games left, like now is really time to push the pedal to the metal, but it's the last one for this heat.
All right, look at them all getting ready. I know we have multiple players that can make it into that top 4. I think we probably have 5 or 6 people that are live, maybe even more than that because of how close this has been across the board. So this is a big pedal to the metal moment. This is kind of the last chance, right? You got to leave it all out here on the stage. Try and lock in your spot for round 2.
آخر شانس.
Portal selection coming
يلي
in.
خسرانين بهذا الشانس الأخير. اللي خسرانين إذا حدا منهم بيطلع مركز أول بيكون عنده أمل إنه يتأهل مو شرط يتأهل.
We got 2 3-cost champion portals to kick off games 1 and 2, but component anvil, that is interesting.
أما SV
Yeah,
والجانجلر
people vote for some of the more
فيهم
normal ones so they can just play
هذول
TFT
بس
in a
جير
competitive environment.
هذول بس بدهم توب
I had
6
Showtime show up, but only one person who couldn't qualify
They
anymore
died.
voted for it, and everyone else voted for something pretty normal like this.
That's not fun. Showtime is fun. Okay, in my lobbies it's fun, all right?
I vote for it on ladder.
Yeah, vote for it on ladder. Yeah. Have fun with the game. It's fun.
So St. Vicious gets this double 3-cost drop off that initial orb. He gets the MF and the Urgot. Opts to sell the MF so he can pick up the 1 cost, but then keep the Urgot. This is something I think, even dating back to the early parts of TFT, people talked about how the 3-cost orb drops sometimes can be a little bit of a bait, but what they really do, especially with headliners in the game, is they can really help you get direction in stage 2 and 3.
I think one of the big things as well is
Hard
because
Steel.
this is the item anvil, Urgot
Hard
I think does gain a lot of
Steel.
value as a drop, because if you find a flexible enough item to play around the Urgot early, that can just be your stage 2 win out. He is one of those 3 costs that is strong enough to make that happen.
Yeah, I think Urgot is the strongest stage 2 3-cost you can get. So I'm pretty happy for Saint. I've been doing a lot of studying with him, so I'm rooting for him.
So you think, I was going to say, like, what's your familiarity with the players in this lobby, and who you feel like has the best shot of getting that top 4 this?
I'm really only very familiar with Saint. I've seen a lot of these other names before, but I'm not super familiar with them.
Well, have you know that Saint's been doing really well in these first 2 games?
Yeah, I saw.
All right,
happy for him.
Pops the anvil, got lots of options. Ends up going with a Death Blade, all right? And immediately takes the Iron assets as well. Lots of itemization coming out of Saint on this stage 2.
I mean, really just looking for a good way to play around the Urgot, as we were talking about, right? Deathblade is a pretty solid item to slam early on. Didn't find, like, red buff I think would be maybe the best thing that he could have seen just because of how flexible it is, but Deathblade works out, and we saw him playing around AD quite a bit already anyways.
So I was looking at his item components there and the things that came out of the anvil. What I was noticing was there's not a lot of frontline options there. He had the belt on bench, but no frontline components could have maybe slammed the redemption with taking the tier. Instead, uses the glove, takes another one, and wants to play around a tempo Thieves Gloves frontline.
Yeah, I like that play. It gave him a frontline item, and then Thieves Gloves gives HP as well, so.
Asa, I know you are you're a proponent of the idea in TFT, you build what you're missing, right? You play what you're missing because you just want to have a balanced board. I talked to one of your students from your TFT coaching site not too long ago who said that it's a really fundamental way of learning the game, and they really appreciate that insight. So I imagine looking at that play the Saint made that it feels kind of aligned with your framework.
No, I like it a lot. One thing I was looking at that he could have made was a 3-item Urgot. Like, he could have made like a Sterix with a Last Whisper or a Hodge with a glove, but then he has his 3-item carry items, and then if he gets dropped any more on Krugs, it's hard to use them.
It'd be tough. He actually finds a loss there in stage 2 on 2-2, which is a little bit surprising with the slams, but running into an Annie and a Kennen that ended up just being, you know, the upgraded units being a bit too powerful. So we see another upgraded Kennen here. Wet Jungler has actually slammed an Ionic Spark, and I guess I've been seeing a decent amount of tempo Ionic Sparks nowadays because people don't necessarily want to have to play Ziggs in the late game, and it still gives them the shred later on while being a really solid tempo item for stage 2.
I was gonna say, that's new.
Yeah,
I feel like I remember seeing a lot of Ionic Sparks slams like maybe last set or so or towards the beginning, but yeah, this is definitely a new tempo.
St. Vicious did have that Heartsteel Cassandre in the last round, but did not have Heartsteel active. This time around, though, finds the Yone in his shop, has the Heartsteel on 2-2, and you have to imagine that feels pretty good.
Yeah, Heartsteel 2-2, he's got the Urgot as well, so we were literally just talking about this in the last game. Like, win streaking with Heartsteel on stage 2 feels great as long as you're setting up to play the 5 Heartsteel and then lose streak after that on sage 3, or even later, right? It's okay to have it go as late as possible. If you're winning, you're winning. We take those, and then finally you have all that extra HP to lose at the latest amount of time possible and get the better cash out.
Yeah, definitely want to be winning rounds right now to save HP. If you lose, you can make maybe an extra 2 to 4 gold from your Heartsteel cash out, but it's not worth the HP.
I've seen a few players actually look for Heartsteel for win streaks, which I think is a really unique take on it, because I know we've talked about this quite a few times now on the broadcast, but it's more of like noticing that it could be a very strong spot for you to tech in something like 5-7 Heartsteel super early, and then you still have that strength.
Yeah, and I wanted to point out real quick, because we were on Farong's board. I actually misspoke earlier. I said the 2 SEA players. I said Farong and Chaos, but it was Gear and Chaos that were really popping off for SEA. But Farong also, you know, Korean player that's done well. I actually think this was one of the ones that Bebe said was a student of his. He's someone he had coached in the past. So a very solid player. We see him playing really unique lines, playing very not Bebe-esque though, I would say. He's not just putting levels. He stayed on that Corki for so long, right? And playing a lot of more greedy lines, trying to play for that fast 9, and we saw him go 1st and 5th with that play, kind of reminiscent of Setsuko's first seed.
Yeah, he's playing all his tank items together, so it's stronger earlier in the game, but if he gets dropped any chains or cloaks, it's going to be really hard to use him effectively. Yeah, but he's getting the tempo from it now.
Talking about it being a student of Bebe, I do feel like even looking at the board felt like a very tempo heavy board playing around the Blitzing Strikes. On that Carousel in stage 2, we see Lil Kahuna taking the span. I believe that was on a set, correct?
Yeah, it looks like that is a set that Lil Kahuna is holding on to there with the spatula, holding on to Set's big, strong arms. We love to see it.
So that's how he gets his workout in.
Yeah.
He gets the workout in by holding the spatula.
Yeah, he's
like
lifting up the spatula and Little Kahuna. One on each arm.
There you go.
And he's just lifting them up. Bicep curls.
What emblem does that make?
What does the bicep curls with the spatula make? I don't know.
Yeah, but we'll get back to you on that one in like set 15.
Do you think the River Sprite or the spatula is heavier?
Ooh, wait. Okay.
Good question. It's got to be spatula. River Sprite looks completely weightless, right?
Water can be heavy though.
Water's pretty heavy.
Water's heavy.
Have you tried to pick up like
you
a
convinced
5
me.
gallon
No, yeah,
mug?
I get it. Water weighs a lot. Okay, you're all right. I take it back.
But how big is the Sprite now? How much
سوبر
health are
فان
we
كي دي
talking?
اي جارديان سيشن.
Now you're asking the real question.
That's bad.
Yeah, I guess it depends. Like, is it normal River Sprite? Is it, you know, Tiny Titans River Sprite? You know, get the increased size. Is he on a big win streak when you have to lift him up? Right. That's the big question.
Yeah. Question for another day. Take a look at this board though. Yeah, it's the Corky Believer. It's not.
You do have
It's
a
not
Corky. I love to see the Corky in the early stages.
All right, Asa, come on. What's your take on this? Corky.
I think Corky's one of the strongest backline carries you can get at the one cost. I actually think he's the best one generically.
Okay, but the contentious topic was keeping the Corky headliner until stage 4 and playing it on stage 4. I know it's entirely based on the spot. There's a lot of different factors. But like, what's your immediate take on like someone playing that on their board in stage 4?
I think if their board is stable, it's a cheap unit that you can like conserve your econ. It only costs 3 gold, and then on 4-2, if you can go level 8 and replace it with a 4 cost, then it's good.
All right, great.
That's it.
You bring up a good point there, right? When you're talking about cheap units, one of the things to consider, especially in set 10 where we have the headliner unit, you're not just paying for the cost of your unit, you essentially have to pay money to pivot, right? Every role, every unit that you buy, it doesn't come free. And so being able to play a unit that can last you a long time does actually have a lot of value.
Yeah, every time you buy a 2 or 3 cost headliner and you change it, you buy, for example, for a 2
لاعب
cost, you
الكوري
buy
عم
it
يلعب
for 6, you
ديسكو.
sell it for 5, so you lose 1 gold. Also, let's say you have a 3 cost headliner, that's 9 gold compared to a 3 gold Corky. 6 gold is half of an interest per round that you could be using.
This headliner Casante has been putting in a lot of work here for St. Vicious. I feel like that's something that I don't see every day.
أنا أتوقع حدا يلعب 8 بت مفاجأة.
On I believe it was his 8. No, it was the mana and damage, right? Which were 2 massive things for him because he was already pretty tanky, but he couldn't get enough casts off. And by getting multiple casts around, because it's so much damage reduction, he's absolutely insane. And now the damage, he already did a lot of damage. He just sometimes would die during his first cast. Now that he's getting multiple casts, he's actually just taking out units in the front line. He's an absolute beast in the early game.
Yeah, I'd also like to point out that talking about saving gold, St. Vicious didn't pick up a Yone pair that he had in his shop because having that extra 3 gold to make econ goes a long way.
He finds the set from one of his orbs, which just means that if he does find Nepelio, he's going to have a very easy time playing 5 Heartsteel in stage 3. Have to keep an eye on that. And I do want to call out, just taking stock of the lobby, and I want to double check this with the graphics, but I believe nobody actually plays in any direction, right? We've got uneven streaks across the board, so nobody is going to have a gigantic advantage on the econ. Although, as I say, that we do see Hunt is there, 48 gold, right?
That's a lot of gold. Chaos is sitting on what, 57 right now?
Yeah, Chaos, but Chaos is on level 5. Hunt's also on level 5. So we have a couple players that stayed on 5, and they're at that 50 econ point. But it's usually a lot of times at 3-1, we'll see maybe 4, 5 players in the lobby who've made it to 50 gold. Here it's only 2, and that's a little bit more rare.
Yeah, he's got the silver spoon, so it saved him effectively 10 gold to this point.
Super nice for an early level 6.
All right, up against St. Vicious's board. Does have 3 Heartsteel in. Urgot's doing a great job of killing units, and this is one of the things about stage 3. You can take the win, right? But the good thing about having this Urgot is you're basically always guaranteed to kill something. So if you are loose streaking, you're not going to get 5 or 6 0'd every single fight. And if you're winning, you're preserving HP while building up your economy.
Hunt has also slammed the Last Whisper with an open bow instead of red buff, so he's probably going to try to commit to the Misfortune.
Interesting.
Got another augment choice to see whether or not that'll help.
Silvers, where am I?
في حدا بالبث يا جماعة الخير؟
Looking for Recon Bobs. We've seen a couple great
إذا ما
ones
في
today
حدا
already.
I see a couple late game specialists. I believe one was already taken, and then we see in the top right hand.
لأنه انحسمت خلص نقاط طلعت راحت لبكرة. اللي عم يلعبوا هلا عم يلعبوا كحماية لبكرة.
Yeah, he doesn't look too happy thinking about these augments.
بس واحد باللوبي ما مهم هو اللي ممكن يتأهل بدل واحد تاني ما مهم. أما الثلاثة اللي عم نحكي عليهم خلاص هيك وهاد 1 2 3 والجنجلر وبيرونج وليكويد هدول تأهلوا خلاص. يلا منا بنعود بكرة، وبركي بكرة بيكون مباريات أكيد بكرة أحلى وبعد بكرة أحلى بكتير، يعني آخر يوم أحلى يوم. بس يلا ماشي الحال، نراكم غدا إن شاء الله، تصبحوا على خير.